If there we go.
We're going live.
We did it. The
We
things
did it.
have occurred.
We're live. It is the 25th of May. It's still May, isn't it?
It's gonna be May.
Yes. It's the 25th of May. And this is Two Guys Talk Tech.
Well done.
We are two guys, and we're going to possibly talk about tech.
Yes.
How is everyone? Can we have the chat, please?
Oh yeah.
You know, as
Them
a
people.
special treat.
Them people who what here?
There we go.
Flop.
Monaco qualifying as a hoot. Yes, Caradog is very secretly watching. He's doing that thing where he's got a comic book inside a textbook. He's got a laptop in front of him, but in front of the laptop is his phone with the qualifying on it. So if you see him looking really intently at his laptop, something interesting is happening in the qualifying.
Oh.
But you're allowed to talk about it. Like,
It was the.
yeah, it's a social thing. We can be like, oh yeah, so-and-so's doing all right. I'm going to be like, cool. Because, you know... I enjoy the F1 as a social thing. Like when we went to visit Sai, I really enjoyed that afternoon when we just sat down with a couple of drinks to watch the F1 and talk shit.
And you were just like, things.
Yeah, like that was a really good afternoon for me. But also I don't care who wins the F1 either. So, I mean, I guess we could say go Norris because he's British, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Go Norris. But yeah.
Yes. Papaya Man.
Papaya Man. Why is he called Papaya Man?
No, a Papaya Man. Because McLaren, their orange is papaya orange.
Okay.
So he is a Papaya Man.
I see. Hi, welcome to Two Guys Talk Tech, everyone, where we may or may not talk about tech.
Absolutely.
Soon June, I know, it should be illegal. Yeah, but here we are. We're going to get slimy trackers only, no repair queue. Yeah, there's nothing in the repair queue that would go on the bench today. Otherwise, I would probably be doing that. The repair queue is actually looking fairly healthy at the moment. There's just a lot of stuff waiting parts. It's a slight bummer because like there's a bunch of there's two MacBooks for screen repairs and stuff like that, but they're all waiting parts. I had some interesting ones that would have been good for the podcast. But I wanted to do those during work time just to make sure that, stuff was getting done. Because, yeah, it's a bit of a high risk to deliberately delay a repair for podcast and just hope that everything goes okay. And whereas if it doesn't go right during the podcast, I'm like, I could have discovered this earlier on and ordered parts for it and gotten that moving. But
Yeah.
I delayed it because I wanted to do it live, and now it's going nowhere until Tuesday, so... repair streams just happen when possible, but yeah, I do them now and then because people do enjoy it, but this was never billed to be a repair stream, but, I am keeping it in mind. That much being said, this one was one of the ones that I was working on earlier on, and I need to make sure that that's working, but all the exciting stuff is done there. But yes, so I'm just going to carry on making slimes because I've got 30 more of these to do, I think. Because last night I was talking to someone else who was just like, hey, about those body trackers that you said you could do, have you got parts yet? And I'm like, yes, I do. And they're like, cool, I want mine now. Do it. And I'm like, righto, I'll get right on that. So.
And you were just like, excellent, send me $2,000.
Yes. Certainly on account that, a lot of people have sort of expressed interest, but I haven't necessarily had a lot of people who are on my list have expressed interest, but I need to go to them and be like, okay, I actually have parts now. Are you ready to buy? And if they say yes...
By ready to buy, I mean give me money.
Yes.
Now.
So yes, I'm just doing more assembly, basically. Stream repairs don't always work out, and Rush makes it work. Yeah, that's true indeed. Yeah. And just streaming repairs is stressful. Although, interestingly...
You find every part of this stressful.
I do. I find my job stressful, but not in a this is a bad quality of life, but just in a... I guess I'm always conscious of could I be doing a better job kind of thing. And sometimes in a way that's good because it means that I'm trying to do my best, but also it sometimes means that sometimes I'm just fussing over something where it's just like, that's fine, you have done enough, you can stop worrying about that,
It's
So,
okay.
yeah. Mm. So yes. I was about to say something and I've forgotten what it was now. Yeah, oh well. Well, I did say, oh yeah, on the subject of like repairs not going as planned, I recorded what was supposed to be a short video and ended up being long enough to be a full-blown video, but I will do it as such anyway. Basically, Treb, who helps out on Thursdays, was in on Thursday, as he's wont to do, and he said I was saying how I was basically expressing the issue of so many custom desktop no-post repairs are non-starter videos, because I'll set up, record like 5 minutes of introduction and strategy, and then it'll be fixed by taking the BIOS battery out and putting it back in or something. And I'm like, I guess I'm throwing this video out. And he said, you should do a video series that's just called No Post on Sundays. And I'm like, that's too good to waste, man. That's too good to waste. So I've done a recording for a video where I've actually done the intro for that, and the intro is going to be welcome to No Post on Sundays, the video about the series about PCs that don't post, that may or may not be posted on a Sunday. So, and the idea of it is that they're going to be very aggressive editing to keep the time down, and they're designed to be as short as possible. And if it turns out, so like the fly through the intro, fly through everything else, and if it turns out to be a BIOS reset that fixes it, so be it. It's a 5-minute video. We would be like, cool, BIOS battery out, fixed it. See you next time, folks. You know, and just post those as and when I have them.
Yeah.
Make it short. 60 seconds is too short. You can't do anything in 60 seconds. Also, short form content, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I suppose I could, some of them might be practical to edit into shorts, so I'll consider that. But yeah. And yeah, there's 2 videos in the queue that are both custom desktops that came in that will do that. The most recent one, there was a bit more to it, like it needed memory, a BIOS reset, and some BIOS configuration, which probably would have been enough to actually do a full-blown video. But I'm going to format it as a no post on Sundays anyway, and just try out that format basically and see how it works. So yeah, shorts do get you exposure. Yeah, it's true. I do need to consider that. I need to at least try it to see if it works. But part of me just doesn't want to play the shorts game because I don't like short form content on principle. Just because, yeah, I don't know. I think short form content is bad for the bread mill, so to speak. Purely because the only people who are making money on it are people who have big brand sponsors, and I think it encourages a low attention span culture, which is kind of all the worst aspects, I think. But then on the other hand, there are, which is not to say there are no good quality shorts, but I don't know. I think if something is worth talking about, it's worth making a 5-minute video for, you know, but nah. And when people are just like, look, I'm busy, I don't have time to watch things, and shorts are great because I can get that information density, and I'm like, I think that's the symptom of a bigger problem, personally. But yeah, that's,
I have.
I'm getting the feeling that you have no
opinions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know,
in the sense of I don't care, and if people want to watch it, they can go watch it.
Yeah.
Like
I'm not saying that that shorts shouldn't exist or anything. You know.
But like, yeah.
I'm just resistant to making them because I have to in order to get noticed, kind of thing.
I don't think that's true. Because certainly, at least based off of the content I watch, absolutely none of that is short form content.
Yeah.
And that's still growing at leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
You need to make content that people want.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter particularly what format that comes in. It just needs to be content that people want.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, I think certainly a case though that there are an awful lot of people who make videos a certain length because they make videos a certain length, not because the content is the length of a video. But I'm an information density extremist.
Yeah, I was going to say you're I watch everything at 2x person, which yeah, I just don't find it comfortable.
Yeah.
I find I've got to pay laser. I feel like I have to be laser focused to not miss a moment of it.
Imagine watching content and not paying attention to it. Why are you watching it then?
Well, I'm doing something else at the same time. I'm playing a chill game at the same time or something like that. And I guess that
then I'm playing a game.
I have to do multiple things at the same time, otherwise I feel like I'm wasting my time. Could that be a symptom of a bigger problem?
Oh, I couldn't be left alone with my own thoughts. No.
Is this ADD?
I mean, also just, long streams of cats is always a valid option.
Long streams of cats?
Yeah.
Oh, what, like just as something on in the background?
The animals running around and doing cat things,
yeah.
and just watching streams of them. That is always a valid option. I'm not saying for your content, I'm just saying, for an activity to engage in. It's ADHD, thank you. ADD is old-fashioned.
This is true. I did intend to I was about to correct myself, and then I got distracted.
That's almost as good as the one earlier.
Ow, my back. Yeah. I went to demonstrate my yoga warrior pose earlier on after complaining about my back and went, ow, my back, and Caradog died. He took psychic damage and was immediately killed. Who ordered this dreary, rainy, cold UK weather for over here in Canada? Oh, okay, yeah. I was going to say, what are you talking about? It's a wonderful summer day. But
it's like a blistering hot 20 Celsius.
I had culture shock this morning because when I woke up, I thought I could hear rain outside, and and it didn't seem particularly bright because my flat is it's facing whatever direction that the sun doesn't hit the windows until like right at the end of the day kind of thing.
Yeah, you're reasonably north facing, I think, on your side.
Yeah, and so I thought I could hear sort of the vague shh of rain outside kind of thing. I was like, oh, it's going to be drizzling out there, and I'm going to have to walk to work in the rain. And so I went to open the curtain just to see how bad it was, and it was a blazing. I was like, oh. It's sunny, and I was just,
What are you doing here?
There's a YouTube video that I think about a lot every time the sun comes out in the UK of, I don't know the name of the YouTuber, but he gets up, opens his windows and goes, "Good morning, rainy Britain," and it's blazing sunshine. He's like, what? And he gets he's like, phone 999, and he's like, what's that blazing score? Like, yeah, what's the blazing ball of fire in the sky? What is it? The sun? It's Britain. We don't get any sun. Hang up. Useless. Goes up to the door and goes, oh, it can't be that bad. Opens the door, puts his hand out into the direct sunlight and goes, runs to the sink, hand underwater kind of thing. And just, I think about that video a lot. That's the end of my story. I've been watching other good videos which I could tell you about.
Let me guess the channel name. Is it
so
Benita?
There's this guy. Yeah. No, actually it's Jenny Nicholson, who is a fandom reviewer. Jenny Nicholson did a 4-hour video that was a review of, the Disney Star Wars Starship Hotel experience thing?
She's been sued.
Is she?
As far as I'm aware, she has been sued by Disney.
By Disney. But they've closed it, though.
The truth.
Yeah. But they closed it down. Why would you bother suing her when you closed it anyway? But
reputational damage? I don't know.
I thought it was well, that's why I thought it was interesting, because I think it's a really fair review. I'm like sort of 3/4 of the way through it. I've still got like, I think, 40 minutes, an hour left of the video to watch. But it's a really fascinating video if you're the kind of person that likes to sit down and listen to a podcast or something like that. Because
so the people here.
Yeah, she she does a really good in-depth review of the Star Wars hotel, and she did go to it. She went and stayed there and everything. This wasn't an outside perspective or something. She paid to go there herself.
Yes, $6,000.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because she does a really good review that covers what she was expecting, what she thinks it could have been, and what she actually got. And also how she thinks that it could have been improved, and pontificates on like, why wouldn't they do this? They're clearly capable of doing that, so why wasn't that the case? That seems strange and such. And yeah, a really, really fascinating video that I think is worth the watch. Just if you're, like, I don't exactly watch reviews of resorts, because that's not something I do, but just as a video that just discusses a thing that did exist, because it's very interesting to watch it now that it no longer exists, because the question of, is this stupid and why does it exist, doesn't matter anymore because it's been closed down. It's more an interest of, it's more of an interest thing as a post-mortem of, what went wrong and why do we think it could have failed, and was it a success in what it aimed to do for as long as it existed or something? Wasn't it established that she actually works for Disney and kept giving Disney things good reviews? I've not done any research into that, so I wouldn't know. That seems incredibly unlikely considering the amount of shots she takes at other influencers who do get freebies from Disney and clearly gave very favourable reviews as a result. She takes a lot of snipes. She doesn't mention names, but she takes a lot of pot shots at other reviewers who are not being very honest or are clearly not giving the full picture, So that would be really, really bad if it turned out that she had connections to Disney, but that really doesn't seem the case to me as someone watching the video. I find that very hard to believe. Overhead cam? Yeah, let's have the bench cam on shot as well.
Pow!
Yeah.
If we line that up correctly, we can make it look like you're reaching into that frame.
Hang on, where's my... I don't know what I'm trying to do here, but yeah. Do you want to flip that and punch down a bit further?
Pow.
That'll do as well, yeah.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
This is soldering things. Frisbees.
So yes, 6,000. Yes, it was 6,000, and like the price of it is an interesting point of contention. It's one of those things where like the price would be justifiable if it were good, but the problem is it wasn't good.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I say, if you got 4 hours to burn, which I certainly like to have videos on while I'm working. Like if I've got to sit down and tear a Mac to pieces and I know I'm not going to be recording a video, I love having on video essays while I sit and take a laptop apart, kind of thing. But yeah, if you've got 4 hours to burn, really, really interesting. I don't watch a lot of Jenny Nicholson's content, but I'm aware of her existence in fandom space, I think she does really. I think she does really good opinion pieces. I think she's very fair because she's actually of MLP fandom fame because she did. She was a prominent fandom voice actor, which made her horse famous, as the terminology goes. And so she.
Made her horse famous.
Yeah.
Or it made her horse famous.
People who are famous in the Brony fandom were known as being horse famous, because obviously it's a joke, because you'd say, oh, they're famous. It's like, but not really, But yeah, she did a very interesting post-mortem of the Brony fandom as well, which I think was extremely fair and honest, of what it was, what it wasn't, what it thought it was, and what it actually was. But yeah, no, I think her content was very good. And yeah, as I say, worth the watch. Also funny in unexpected ways. But yeah. That's it. That's what was her name? Jenny Nicholson. So yes.
Is that the channel name?
Yes, that's her channel. That's her name and her channel name. Reminds you of DashCon. Yeah. Oh, DashCon was a comedy of errors. Man, I remember when that happened.
Very well.
Yeah. But oh man, that's a can of worms though. DashCon is one of those. I don't even know if DashCon is interesting to discuss because there's just, it's kind of intrinsically linked to drama. So it's very difficult to do a objective analysis of it because so much of it boils down to drama surrounding it, basically. Whereas I almost think something like Fire Festival is more interesting to break down because Fire Festival, like DashCon, it's not rocket science what went wrong at DashCon. It was a convention that was planned and run by people who had no idea how to run a convention, and they ran out of money poorly, and they were extremely poorly planned and ran out of money midway through the thing, basically. And like they didn't sell enough tickets and just somehow thought that they were going to sell 70% of their tickets on the door, kind of thing.
Oh,
you know, and like there was no world where that was going to happen, and the fact that they thought that was going to happen is ludicrous and demonstrates a severe lack of knowledge on how conventions work. You know,
I mean, based on your experience, you didn't even have capacity from the door sales, did you?
we did allow on the door sales. It just wasn't guaranteed that you just obviously if we sold out and it's just a terrible idea to buy your ticket on the door of a convention because it kind of assumes that like when you go to a convention, you're probably traveling to it and booking a hotel room. So you're going to organize and plan a trip, an out-of-town trip where you're staying at a hotel and you're not buying your ticket to the events you're not buying your ticket to the event in advance.
Yeah.
Who does that? You know, the only time where that actually happens is if you're local to the town and you're going to be like, oh, that's half an hour down the road. I'll show up for a day and buy a ticket on the door.
Yeah.
That's a real thing that might happen, but like that's going to be a slim minority. That also depends on someone being aware that the event is happening. And if they're aware that it's happening, again, they're probably going to buy a ticket in advance.
Yeah.
And like, I have a suspicion that there's a bit less bias for this in the US. Buying on the door is a bit more common in the US. But also I think that more applies to like comic conventions and stuff like that. Because like I've gone to comic conventions where I've bought tickets on the door. But that's because it was a very just broad comic convention geek event where like it's kind of assumed that people will hear about it and be like, oh, that's 40 minutes away, that'll be a day out, and you just drive down there and just pay on the door, you know. But for an actual convention where you're intending to go, or you know, where you're intending to show up for a couple of days and or you've planned an out-of-town trip, so suffice to say, it's really dumb to expect the majority of your ticket sales to be on the day. So if you're a month out from your event and you have sold 30% of your tickets, your event's bust.
Yeah.
You know. But also, like, but then also this then comes into the fact of like, for DashCon, like in the UK, the event just simply would fold because in the UK you would need to pay for the venue up front, and if you have not paid for your venue like 3 months before the event date, your event isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
They just don't let you run the event. Whereas with DashCon, they were halfway through the event when the hotel turned around and was just like, yeah, so you gotta pay your bill now because you're halfway through your event and you haven't paid your bill. And so they then turned around to all of the. They then brought. They did a emergency hall gathering and basically said to everyone, we need to raise $30,000 to pay the hotel expenses right now, otherwise we're going to get shut down. And of course, for the attendees, the answer to that is, how's that our problem? We've already paid our ticket.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where it just gets into just a horrible cringe drama fest, you know. Aside from just the fact that the rest of the event was terrible. Fire Festival is kind of interesting because they had a huge amount of money sloshing around there and a huge amount of stuff going on and a loss of planning, yet it didn't seem to go down, and it just obviously begs the question, where did the money go? You know, if you didn't spend it on luxury villas and things like that, what did you spend it on? And I think Fire Festival is more interesting as what actually happened there. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what went wrong with DashCon. Fire Festival requires more investigative journalism to understand exactly what happened. But yes. If the tickets don't sell out or are not VIP, it might be cheaper to buy on the spot than online. Yeah, I guess you could gamble that on the door might be cheaper on the day if you're willing to run the risk.
Well, I was going to say literally every event I've ever seen will always charge more for on the day because they don't know whether they're going to get that sale or not.
And also they want to encourage you to buy in advance. So it wouldn't surprise me if some people do cheap on the door tickets just to try and get a couple more sales at the end of the moment. But also that's bad optics because if you make the tickets cheaper on the door, everyone who pre-booked is going to be very pissed off with you if they find out that the ticket was cheaper on the door. So yeah. Hello, pal. Yep, trackers again. It was either that or I didn't have anything else to do, so this is where we are. So, yes.
Wow, there have been 2 documentaries done on Fire Festival.
Yeah.
One on Hulu and one on Netflix.
Yeah. It was very interesting because there were a lot of extremely high-profile names involved. That was the fascinating thing, because, again, DashCon's failure, anyone who knows anything about running an event can instantly see what happened there. Whereas Fire Festival, they had big names attached to Fire Festival. So it's like, how the hell did this happen, At least one done by Internet Historian. Yeah, Internet Historian's coverage of Fire Festival was pretty fair, I think, as well. Scammer organised it. Scammers happen. This is true. This is true. I mean, ultimately is...
They were sentenced to prison and ordered to forfeit $26 million.
Oh, that's a lot of $1 million.
And then there are several class action lawsuits with at least one seeking $100 million in damages.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of damage.
I don't think FlexiTape's going to help you with this one.
Yeah.
God.
All right.
That's wild. Oh no, I don't like the fact that it says blah, 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 and a kingpin of a cartel.
Oh, I see.
I think that explains what went wrong.
Have you had any issues with the whole Intel Alder Lake wattage limits being unlocked? I haven't encountered it myself, but every time I've been setting up a 13th or 14th gen Intel rig, I've been setting wattage limits anyway, just because I think you should do that anyway, because when you set up a 13th or 14th gen Intel CPU, you need to be mindful of what cooling you're giving it. Because if it's a i9, you cannot cool it. So you have to restrict the wattage to the amount you can cool. That's the only way you stop it from thermal throttling. So yeah, I've always set them up manually. But yeah, so yeah, I think it's I was about to say, I think it's a bit of a hoo-ha what's going on with the Intel Alder Lake stuff, but on the other hand, also I think this is just shining on a light that this is part of a bigger problem that this can happen in the first place, and there is clearly a lot of confusion going around about power limits and how much power these chips use and so on and so forth.
Something, imagine standards, something.
Yeah, but also this is why I'm kind of like not recommending Intel to people at the moment, because I'm just like, no, it's a hot mess. No pun intended. Actually, no pun fully intended. It is a hot mess. Haha. Because it's hot.
Yes.
Because it uses a lot of watts.
Yes. Yes. Well done.
Because they're overheating.
Okay. Oh dear. Someone asked which Insta camera you have.
Oh yeah.
It's the Insta360 Link.
Correct. This is the Insta360 Link.
Do you know which one's which? You have two of them.
Oh, I see.
Do you know which one's which?
No, but they're both identical, so yeah. Yes, they're both identical Insta360 links. So
pow.
Yeah.
Yes, you could reach.
Oh, I won't move it now.
No. I was saying you could reach into the frame. It's like, ah!
Good, right, that tracker
Imagine
is
not having
done.
an insane custom loop and just letting it eat cheap electricity. Imagine having electricity 24 hours a day, JD.
Apparently Insta have been implicated in bribing reviewers. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, they have. I've received no such offers from them because I don't respond to my emails.
Well, no, like Graham is entirely scrupulous and has never been purchased, because to be purchased requires to read one's emails.
Yeah. Although, it wouldn't surprise me that people just. It wouldn't surprise me that the culture exists, though. Like I've got a. I need to check for a follow-up actually, but I had an offer for another thermal cam review, the wording was muddy, but it felt like there could have been an offer for a. Well, no, that's not true actually. Yeah, there was an offer for a paid video about the thermal camera, and for a moment I was going to be like, oh, that's implying that they were paying for a good review kind of thing. I was like, no, they're offering to pay for a video. That's not shady. But yeah, when I said, oh yeah, send me one and I will do a review of it, I did have to say the review is free, but I retain creative control over it. So that is to say, I'm going to review this, but no, you don't get any say in the review. That's not how, because that's not how a review would work. Like, as a reminder, that's how that's going to go. But if you want to pay me money, I can also offer you sponsor advert integrations at the beginning of videos, where I will say whatever you want me to say, kind of thing.
Here is the review of the ABC. But first, our sponsor. The ABC thermal cam is the best thermal camera I've used today.
Yeah.
Today, this is the best camera I have used in the past 45 minutes.
Hello, Paul.
Also,
how are you doing?
Hello, Paul.
So yes, it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I don't know. It takes two to tango, though, because like, there's people who are offering money for paid reviews, but also there's people who are taking money for a paid review. And you've got to, when Insta, if Insta360 get implicated in paying for reviews, I think that you've also got to very quickly add to the fact of, additionally, these people have been implicated in being paid for reviews, because like, that's journalistic malpractice, and that's very much don't get me wrong, you shouldn't offer a paid review. That's bad, but also like the channels who took that money are also just as in the wrong here, and that should not go without saying.
As long as he doesn't have to answer emails, he'll do anything to get money.
It's true. It's getting better though. The ticket list is getting shorter. I'm into the mid-20s now. I'm very excited.
I'm into the mid-20s of the ticket list. It will go no higher than 20.
Yeah, well, you know. Where? In the last video, there was a lack of OSD for the multimeter. Check the pinned comment on that video, where it says, sorry for the no OSD on the multimeter. Paid review is an advert placement. Indeed. But yeah, no, as I say, there's I forget the name of the company now, but I'm hopefully getting another thermal cam in for review soon, and it's going to be one of the all-in-one handheld ones, which I thought would be interesting. Because if someone offered me a review for just another thermal cam that plugs into your phone, I probably wouldn't be super excited about it, because don't think I'd have much to offer on it other than just, yep, it's got the same specs as all of them, because basically all the mainstream plug into your phone webcams have got just the same like 250 by 196 pixel sensor, I think it is. So there's just not really anything interesting to say about it. But with this one, because it's one of the handheld gun style ones, I'm like, oh, this is interesting because I can compare and contrast this form factor versus using the plug-in ones, and the advantages and disadvantages of both. So yeah, I'm interested to do that. Meanwhile, the Fluke sell for 10 times the price. Yeah, a while back I had a snotty comment on my P2 Pro video where someone accused me of being a paid shill for it, and how the FLIR was vastly better. And I was like, firstly, no, I didn't get paid. I received a free sample of it, and I gave my honest review of it. That's how this business works, you know. And B, the FLIR that you've said is better has worse specs on paper, is lower resolution, and costs more. So by all means, do tell me how that's somehow better, you know. FLIR off-center picture, nope, P2 Pro. Well, the FLIR has got the outline, which is why you get that off-center picture, and I see the appeal of it. It does add in some detail that you don't get with the P2 Pro. The P2 Pro is high resolution enough that you arguably don't need the hybrid picture, but the hybrid picture is kind of nice. But then also, again, if you don't have a macro lens to bring those two together, the hybrid picture is too out of alignment to actually be useful. So on that note, yeah, off-center pictures no bueno. Ultimately, the FLIRs are not designed for electronics, whereas stuff like the P2 Pro and a lot of these Chinese ones have been designed specifically with the repair business in mind. They've seen what people are using these thermal cameras for, and like certainly with Infraarray, who make the P2 Pro, you know, in all of my communications with them, they were very specific in that they were like, show pictures of you pointing it at a circuit board, show pictures of you pointing it at a short circuit. They were like, because that's what people are buying these for finding short circuits. They knew exactly who their target audience was. Whereas FLIR, they're targeting like electricians and building surveyors and people like that who are looking for drafts and, you know, hot areas on a fuse panel. And at that kind of scale, the picture of alignment isn't a problem because you're more than a meter away from the subject.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's.
I think that was the thing as well, though, that impressed me about both of the thermal cameras. It's just the fact of you could hold it one end of a shop, look the other end of a shop, and it would still give you a result. And I'm like, that's several meters out of a cheap consumer device. Ha!
It is still extremely fascinating now and then just to plug in the thermal camera and just look around at things with it and be like, you know. It was like when we were doing the hot mulled cider around Christmas, and we just pointed it at the side, and you could see the convection currents in it as it heated up and stuff. It was just like, you know.
Neat.
Yeah. So yeah, I love it. But yeah, time for me to
Yes.
design and manufacture my own IR camera. I mean, if you
Yes.
made some kind of kit for your setup, because your setup is god tier, you know.
Just using something like the P2
Yeah,
instead
and like
these days, I guess.
I mean, for a long
That runs on Windows.
yeah, I mean, for ages, you know, I looked at the Paul Daniels' IR setup and was just like, oh, that's way too custom to make any kind of kit for. But you know, that's what you said about a lot of your other stuff. Yeah, the Paul Daniels Type C meter and the Paul Daniels ring light, it's on sale and they're selling them. People are buying them. Paul Daniels is selling his stuff. Go buy it. It's really good.
Where does Paul sell it?
At PL, are you pldaniels.com, Paul? I think you're pldaniels.com, aren't you?
.com.au/Australia. Down under.
Yeah, you've got to type in the .com upside down. But yeah, not paid sponsorship. No, not paid sponsorship, but he did send me free samples, so make of that what you will. But also, it's really good. I'm using his stuff because it's really good, you know. I have other ring lights and I have other Type C power meters. I'm using Paul's ones because they're the best ones I've got. Yeah, so how much are TPM modules selling for now? Nil, because it's built into the motherboard. Or rather, it's built into the CPU. The TPM rush was a fun little rush when Windows 11 got announced.
And for some reason, no one decided to read anything.
Yeah, me included. I bought one. I didn't spend a lot of money on it. I paid like 15 quid for an MSI one for just an MSI board I had in stock.
Yeah.
And then immediately realised, oh, it's built into the CPU now, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
But also kind of understanding how the plug-in card functions is relevant to your day job.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Yeah, I think that was also potentially an interest thing, is just to actually, yeah. The first thing I discovered is the one that I actually bought wasn't even compatible with the motherboard, despite they were both MSI.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, yeah. Oh, I haven't soldered this header on yet, and I'm trying to solder the module to it.
Paul Daniels pack of 52 magic cards. I mean, surely there'd have to be 53 of them or 51 of them for them to be really magic.
Say, Paul, did you know there's a magician with the same name? I bet you've never heard that joke before.
All right, Adam.
I'm standing up for you here. Sai is allowed to make jokes like these though because he's a gremlin. Right. You've been getting the pop-up to upgrade to Windows 11. Yeah, now we're 18 months out from the death of Windows 10. The Windows 11 upgrades are out in force now, and I'm
stand up against Sai.
I'm recommending Windows 11 as the default option now, just because now it seems now it is apparent that Microsoft are making good on their intention to kill Windows 10. It's a matter of like, yeah, it doesn't matter whether you like 11 or not. Get with the program, basically.
Yeah.
It's still like 18 months away, sure, but still, you should now be spending your energy learning Windows 11. That is better time spent.
I'm looking at it and wondering what actual show-stopping things there are in Windows 11 these days for an office environment.
I don't think there are any now. I think they've ironed out any annoyances.
I think the only one I've seen is just a weird Citrix issue, but that's Citrix.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we can't upgrade until Citrix dies.
Yeah.
Which is happening soon.
Thank God. Yeah,
soon.
I mean, I'm not upgrading at home because my virtual reality headset won't be compatible with Windows 11 soon because they've end-of-lifed Windows Mixed Reality, which I'm kind of pissed off about. Because if it, I would upgrade to Windows 11, but because they're actually taking WMR out of 24H2, I'm like, oh, you didn't just end of life it, you're actually killing it, which I think kind of sucks, and I'm not sure why they've done that. But yeah, so there are a couple of reasons, and someone said about going to Windows 12 it's rolled off screen now. Someone said, isn't Windows 12 just around the corner? Well, we don't know. It's probably 2025. No, sorry, probably 2026, because the current theory is that Microsoft are in a big rush to kill off Windows 10 because they can't release Windows 12 until 10 is dead, because then they'll have 3 supported versions of Windows on the go at the same time, which I think everyone can agree is kind of horrifying. And Windows 10 long-term support, yeah, that's a valid thing, but also that's not going to be getting any feature updates. That's
also not consumer-facing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of you can run it, but that's not a standard setup per se. But yeah, so given that they're killing Windows 10 in 2020 at the end of 2025, it seems likely that we're going to see Windows 12 announced in late 2025, and they're going to roll it out in 2026. That's my prediction.
Maybe.
Are you thinking that's too soon?
I don't know. I, to a degree, hope that we see some reasonable breathing space between the death of 10 and the release of 12.
Yeah.
And we see, reasonably sort of aggressive kind of feature posturing around it and actual, just kind of stuff happening.
Well, I was talking to...
But, yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to someone on Discord the other day, and this is pure heresy. Heresy? Hearsay. I got stuck between hearsay and heresy. You know this already because I was talking about this in the Discord. And the heresy joke came up in Discord as well. But yeah, this is pure hearsay. But I was talking to someone in a Discord who was basically claiming to be under a Microsoft NDA and had been to Microsoft product briefing meetings. And he was very much doomsaying about a very aggressive push for all of the bits of Microsoft that everyone is not a fan of at the moment. Big pushes with AI, boot from cloud, more adverts in Windows, Windows 12, stuff like that, all being very, very aggressively pushed in the meeting rooms. Now, again, this is pure hearsay because, I was just like, none of this, there's no information in public to substantiate these claims. And he said, well, I can't talk about it. To which I said, okay, I'm guessing you're under an NDA, but obviously that means I can't substantiate your claims. He didn't respond to that because obviously a lot of the time you can't say I'm under NDA, you can only imply it. So yeah, basically he's under assuming he's telling the truth, he's under NDA. But also that means that I can't guarantee that he's not talking hogwash. But it is someone who I know as an acquaintance, and I don't believe they have any reason to lie about that either. So I think he's probably telling the truth. So, but also though, so he was very much doomsaying everything, but maybe he's just misreading the situation because a lot of people, they see the headlines or they see Microsoft testing more adverts in Windows and being like, oh, Microsoft are going to fill Windows with adverts. And it's like, they put suggested items on the start menu. That's already in Windows 10. That's already in Windows 10 and has been for years. This isn't new. Why are you making such a big deal of this? And I guess he was implying that it's going to get so much worse, but also everything that Microsoft has done, you've been able to just turn that off in a setting. And if there wasn't a setting for it, you can bet your ass there's going to be a registry edit or a group policy option for it. So, yeah, it's kind of crappy that it's there in the first place, but again, it just feels like a lot of people making a fuss over nothing. That's just my 2 pence anyway. You already broke the NDA, might as well keep talking. I mean, not really, just vague postulating about stuff that is, vague postulating about stuff that is obviously the direction that Microsoft are going in. Like, these things that he's talking about, this is very obviously directions that Microsoft are looking into. It's not... it's not radical leaks to say that this is a thing that is on its way. But I think the point I'm making is that it supports the idea that this is something that Microsoft are looking to do as soon as they can, apparently. So they say. So a guy on Discord says, So,
Yeah. Obviously, I look at it somewhat from the point of view of just what will make them money, and I don't see how some of the stuff will make them any money, so I don't see why they would do it.
It feels like they're massively overestimating how many people...
Like booting from cloud, how's that going to make them money?
Well, they run the cloud servers.
Right, but how's that going to make them more money than selling you a license that they then don't have to do anything with at all? No day-to-day maintenance, no issue if it randomly doesn't start one day.
Being dependent on paying the monthly subscription for that, perhaps, because obviously, games for Windows, Microsoft Gaming as a subscription. What's it called? Game
Pass.
Game Pass. That's the one. Game Pass. That's the subscription that people pay for. But a lot of people, they're on and off. They cancel it and then they buy again and so on, just as and when they want. Yeah. Just a lot of people, Spotify subscriptions, people might cancel it for a couple of months and then get it again. If your computer stops working, if you cancel your subscription, well, you're not going to cancel that subscription. I'm not saying this is going to happen soon. When my acquaintance suggested this, I was like, we are nowhere near that. I can believe that that's a direction that Microsoft would want to go in, but we are nowhere near that being the norm.
It's also just not functional for a laptop.
Exactly, and also considering that most people don't have an internet connection that would support that in a useful way, that's just not something we're anywhere close to.
Yeah. I understand the enterprise version of that.
Yeah.
The enterprise version of that makes sense, where you get hosted Windows environments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense for enterprise things, because you have effectively an Azure containerized Windows environment that your machines are connecting to that environment, and you're literally never running the data outside of that Azure environment. So for super sensitive stuff, where you cannot risk it leaking,
it stays in one place.
It's all in one place. It's all containerized. That makes so much sense, and that's already the way that an awful lot of massive solicitors and design firms use.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So there's a lot of stuff in the works, and I think a lot of people are looking at. I think a lot of people are seeing stuff that Microsoft is looking very far ahead at and going, oh, this is going to be forced. And it's like, it's not going to be forced, because for a start, all of the stuff that Microsoft are doing with AI and Copilot, that's all going to be subscription based, So everyone, all of the faff about recall and things like that, it's like, that's going to be a paid feature. You're not going to be forced to use that. You're going to have to pay to use that anyway. So I wouldn't worry about it. Microsoft aren't installing a spyware on your computer anytime soon, unless you consider telemetry to be spyware. But if that's the conversation we're having, then I don't think we can really have a conversation.
No.
But yeah, either way, this is all stuff that, yes, Microsoft are looking into this, but no, this isn't going to be something that they're going to ram down people's throats. They're going to make you pay for it. And if you don't want to pay, then you just simply don't have it, in which case there's no problem. I think what's more interesting to me, and what I'm interested to see, is what the future of free Windows is going to look like. Because, all signs are pointing to a two-tier version of Windows, a freemium version of it, and a paid-for version of it that will include all the Copilot stuff. So the question is, everyone's complaining about adverts being in Windows. It's like, well, let's face it, none of you guys have bought a Windows license anyway, because you either got a cheap one that you paid £5 for on a key website, or or it came bundled with a computer, or it was a free upgrade from a pirate version of Windows 7. Let's face it, the majority of you did not pay for your Windows license. You can't really complain if Microsoft want to start generating ad revenue on all of the quote-unquote freeloaders, you know. Now, I think there's an argument to be made that if you buy a laptop from Dell and that has adverts on it, well, no, I've bought a laptop with a Windows license, with an OEM license of Windows. I shouldn't be seeing adverts there. So I'm interested to see how that's all going to shake out. What is the free version of Windows going to look like in the future? You know, because I don't think it's unreasonable for there to be to have a actually free to download and install version of Windows that is ad supported. You know, I don't think that's unreasonable. But also, I don't know what that's going to look like. And also, I think it is unreasonable that if you buy a laptop from an OEM, that should not have adverts in Windows, because it's assumed that you're going to get an OEM license of Windows bundled with that.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to make the laptop cheaper in exchange for it coming with Windows quote unquote basic. But let's face it, when the cost price goes down, they don't decrease the sale price, they just make more money. That's how capitalism works. So if Windows gets cheaper to the OEMs because it becomes ad supported, they're just going to pocket the difference.
But if it means that there aren't any Pentium silvers and golds sold.
Well, that's a separate problem though, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, you know. If it gets rid of all the Pentium silvers and golds, it means all laptops come with 8 gigs of RAM.
Well, that would require Microsoft to actually enforce decent minimum requirements, but yeah, I can't see that happening soon. That's a very systemic problem, the issue of the crap tier laptop, because, you know, again, for those of you who don't know, it's very easy to beg the question, why does the Celeron exist? We all agree that the Celeron is garbage and shouldn't exist, so why does it exist, and why do the shops keep selling them, knowing that they're selling garbage tier laptops? Well, it's because if you're HP and you go to Intel and you say, I want to buy 1 million i5 CPUs from you and 500,000 i7 CPUs from you, Intel is going to turn around and go, yes, we'll sell these to you, but you have to also buy 1 million Celerons, because we've got a bin of the crappiest CPUs that are not good enough for anything else, and we've got to make that yield somehow. So you have to buy these CPUs. So HP are going to be like, well, I guess we'll put these in something because we've had to buy these, so we're going to sell them. And that's kind of a systemic problem that is a lot harder to solve than anything else. Because that's the thing, JD, you know, as JD asks there, why does Intel make the Celeron? They don't. They make an i3, but half the i3s don't work when you make them. You know, they make a quad-core i3, 2 of the cores don't work, or 1 of the cores don't work, so you fuse off the stuff that doesn't work and you sell it as a lesser chip. No one deliberately makes a Celeron or a Pentium.
I mean, other than possibly Intel, based on, you know...
They're literally special dies. What, really?
Yeah.
Is the Celeron not a downbinned chip?
No.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, this is news to me. Someone educate me then.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. No. They literally make and design the Celeron and Pentium Silver.
Intel, I gave you the benefit of the doubt. I defended you. I thought you were just down-binning chips, because that's how it used to work. And like, obviously binning is how it works for higher tier stuff as well.
Yeah.
You know, hence, you know, like for example, the 2060, what was that EVGA, the 2060 KO that had like a 2080 GPU on it or something bonkers like that. I think it was the 2060 KO that had like a really high-end GPU on it that was just downbinned into the Stone Age.
Yeah. It had a 2080 core with part of it disabled.
Because it was just a super downbinned 2080 chip.
Yeah.
So yeah. several tiers of Celery and Pentium.
Yeah. So they'll design effectively the top Pentium Gold, and then like the failed Pentium Gold
and the
will
Pentium
become
Silver is
silvers.
a binned. Yeah, so it does beg the question: why bother making the crap chip in the first place? Yeah. But yeah. There. I mean, it's getting slightly. Well. Yeah, I can't remember. My limit is dual cores. There are I don't mind a Pentium Gold because I think a Pentium Gold is still actually 4 cores. However, I draw the line at 2-core 4-thread CPUs. We should not be.
It's okay. I can give you an Intel CPU with 6 cores.
And 1 performance core, yeah.
No, 0 performance cores. 6 E cores clocked at a blistering 1.1 gigahertz. The Intel N100 or whatever it is, the Intel N95.
I mean, it's got 6 cores. Is it that bad?
The same processing power as a face mask.
Yeah. Oh no. And they're on DDR4 too. Yeah, I mean, DDR4, DDR4 is obsolete, but... Sorry, I'll rephrase that. DDR4 is end of life, but I wouldn't call it obsolete.
I don't have a problem.
It'll be a couple of years before we see the end of DDR4.
I don't have a problem with the Intel stuff using DDR4, as long as it's an i3 or lower.
Yeah.
Anything above that makes no sense to me, it being on DDR4. Except for, well, like the i5K SKU and like the i5 700 SKU.
Yeah.
That being on DDR5 makes sense, and that i5 and higher makes sense to me. But below that, I can kind of see the justification for it. Certainly in a desktop machine where the DDR5 they're probably going to put into it is 4800 anyway.
Yes. They still use DDR3 with 9th gen on some stuff. Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember...
was that again like...
Floor Lamp saying something about that for the laptop controllers still... the laptop PCHs still had DDR3L support for something.
Maybe embedded systems or something.
Yeah, I presume embedded systems.
Yeah.
Because obviously embedded systems just don't count.
Yeah.
Because that embedded system is expected to function for 15 years with zero involvement until a drunk puts their fist through the screen.
Indeed. And certainly with laptops, laptops being a little bit behind on memory type is not unreasonable because, for example, DDR4 was so late to the laptop party. Like we saw a lot of DDR3. The ice cream man's outside. Imagine if we just stopped everything and went and got ice cream right now. Anyway, I do want a cider, so I'm going to get that in a minute.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, I do want a cornetto.
Yeah.
Just one cornetto.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. DDR4 was late to the party because there was no DDR4L for a long time. There was no low-power DDR4.
There never was a DDR4L, was there?
Wasn't there? I thought there was in the later days. I could be wrong, but at the very least, do it. Everyone... You know what? I'm going to go... Ice cream? Ice cream. All right, let's go.
All right, bye, guys.
Yep. I'm going to grab a tenner because I don't know if this guy will take cards.
I was about to say, do you have your keys?
Yes.
Before we get locked out. A bit is being a bit is a character.
I've no idea if the micro... Oh, stop. Keys.
That's why I said, do you have them? And you said yes.
I was busy. I was also... whatever. Okay. How much do you reckon a cone goes for these days? Could I get a single cone with a flake, please? Yeah, medium. Go on then. And whatever my friend's having.
Have the same, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
No, just the same. It's fine, thanks. £6, please, buddy.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Oh, thank you very much.
Perfect.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
No idea if the microphone could reach out there or not. We'll find out when we get back to chat. This is going to get in my beard, man. There we go. That's we call this a it's flaring up a bit, but we call this a 99 flake because there we go. It's soft ice cream with a Cadbury's milk chocolate flake. And it used to be called a 99 because you used to pay 99p for something like this. These days, this is £3. Alright. I'm now going to have to tactfully hold my beard out the way while I lick it. Oh.
Oh.
Oh. Be gone, I'm trying to re-chat. Right. It totally worked. Nice. There we go.
Oh my god, that was a lot of chat.
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay.
Oh.
Imagine me having to drive 3 hours over to pick the lock on the door. Pounding on the doorway, looked out. I've no idea. If you could hear... Oh, there you go. You're a single cone with a flake. Yes. Nice. I was going to say, that microphone range was pretty good, given it's stuffed in the back of a computer. There's a wall internally.
And we were on the other side of the van as well.
Yeah. Caradog, just give me the flake box. Ah, yes. My pin is... I require you to play this game so I can make these references. And then I need you to upload the VOD to YouTube.
A Hat in Time is back on the playlist.
Also, have you been uploading your VODs to YouTube?
Yes, yeah.
Because I've somehow missed all of them.
Yeah, the release schedule has been extremely patchy because for a while I'll forget, but I am very reliably exporting them to YouTube. I'm just not reliably publishing them.
Very well.
So yeah.
Excellent. Good licking technique there. Ah, JD.
Well, I don't like biting ice cream because I feel like you're just wasting it kind of thing. You've got to lick it, but also eating soft ice cream with a beard is really hard work. You've got to be like, you've got to do a hit and run. You've got to be like, oh. So.
I'm sorry, you've got to do what?
You've got to go, oh. Oh.
There's an easy solution.
What?
An electric razor.
Oh, I see. This video is sponsored by Manscaped for some reason. And their...
I hate it when I... Oh, never mind.
And their Ball Mower 10,000 or whatever they call it these days.
This video is sponsored by Where? Whatever the one brand was we bought.
Yeah.
Well. You should... Detachable beard.
This whole show is just on pause while we eat these ice creams now. Because like, it's soft ice cream. We can't take our time. We've got to get on with this. face mask but on chin. It works. That's genius, actually, Lead Farmer. That's legitimately genius. The one time where I wouldn't look like a pillock for wearing a mask on my chin. If you think ice cream with a beard is hard, you should try it with a stash. Yeah, soup strainer.
Do the ad, then walk into shop with the beard still. Have someone comment about it and then just wink at the camera. I don't know. There's hair in my ice cream.
I'm nearly at phase 2 of the ice cream, where you lick over the top of it and you try and push the ice cream down into the cone as you do so. Because the strategy for a 99 flake is what you don't want to do is eat all of the ice cream and then just be left with a dry husk of a cone. What you need to do is try and push as much ice cream down into the cone as possible, so when only the cone remains, there is still some ice cream in it to stop it from being dry husk. And you leave the flake until last, otherwise, you know, like, what's wrong with you?
The Lawnmower 5 Ultra.
Snow cone?
The Lawnmower 4 Pro. The Beard... Oh, Hedger, not Edger. The Handyman. The Weed Whacker.
I don't know, part of me is just put off by how hard they're trying to be manly, but then it's kind of in the name, I guess, so I don't know.
Oh, I thought they were trying hard to be puerile and childish.
Yeah.
Nom nom nom.
Right, now begins the crunching.
That's... Nope. No, Si. That's the unfortunate Wish.com purchase.
Oh no. Dealcar says, but I like the dry husk. I don't know, if it was decent wafer, then sure. But...
Yeah, 300mm
Yeah, but this
EUV.
Yeah, if it was decent wafer, sure. But like modern cones like this is this without ice cream would just be like eating a not a Rivita. What are the polystyrene cracker things? Rice crackers.
Cake?
Rice cake. Yeah, just a dry rice cake with nothing. Disappointment. You have the cheap shite. Yeah.
Excuse me, JD? Polyurethane wafers.
You'd get some real ice cream for less. You're probably right, and it would be right up the high street as well. One of the local shops would have had like Kelly's ice cream in a wafer cone, and I doubt we'd have paid £3 for that. But also, I think that's the first time I've gone to an ice cream truck in like 20 years. So I'm like, sod it. Also, we did it for the bit anyway.
An oyster? What?
I've not seen an ice cream van selling oysters before. If that was the implication. Oh. Ah.
Ah. Now it's time for salty beer.
No, I'll have one of the hopped ones though, because you don't like the hopped ones, do you? Right. Do you want a cider?
Yeah.
We've got Golden Earthy Medium. We've got Killer Sharp Sour. Did we like the sour one? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I'll give it a go.
Sure?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, oyster clam wafers.
Oyster clam wafer.
That was an option.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. If I do know what that is, I don't know what it is by name. Would you like me to thog you? Okay, right. Right. The show can now continue. I've forgotten what we were talking about before, CPU binning and stuff like that. We probably need a new topic. Anything else exciting going on in the news this week?
Apple M4 Silicon iPad Pro
Oh, yeah.
continues to be pointless.
Yeah. Do you watch MKBHD?
No, but yes. I do not watch them. However, their video about the M4
Yeah.
iPad Pro popped up, and I went, "Oh yeah, I'll watch that because I know he knows about Apple stuff."
Yeah.
In a reasonably straight-laced fashion.
Yes. And yeah.
And he was just like, I cool, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. It's just like, yeah, they've made a new one. It's faster than the previous one. My M1 is still all the performance that I ever possibly need.
I think my thing that I liked the most about it was the fact that it put a fake shadow on the screen.
Yeah, there were some really nice touches
That's the
with
thing
that.
I liked the most, because it was so pointlessly silly.
I don't know how pointless something like that would be. I think something like that would actually be helpful.
What, an ever so slight shadow from the pen that's not a real shadow.
Yeah, just because it gives you, I think the shadow will help you judge distance from the screen.
Oh,
better.
as far as I could tell, it only appeared when you were basically touching the screen.
Well, then you know when you're about to touch the screen then, don't you? You know.
I guess.
But
I don't know how a shadow that's functionally under my hand.
Like, without having used it, I looked at that and I was like, I think that is going to be more useful than you'd think. I think that's going to be one of those very subtle effects that actually gives useful feedback.
But people are tracing. What? Caradog tracing. I'm like, tracing around me? Attacking me with
don't
tracing
know.
paper?
Yeah.
Do not!
But yes. There's someone asking about Venoscorp in Twitch. Uh-oh.
Oh dear.
I hope they're not buying one, or I hope they don't have one.
I hope they aren't.
Yeah.
I hope not.
But yeah, other than that, I think it's one of those. It's one of those. I think the other thing that bothered me, which again is something that that Marquise did bring up, Marquez, he did bring up as well, is that the M4 iPad is thinner than the old one. It's only it's like 5.3 millimeters thick now, and like the previous
It can't be
gen one.
5.3, because that would make it thicker than the Samsung one. It's 5.13.
Oh, that one then. Yeah.
Because the Samsung one is 5.19.
But it's interesting, they made it thinner, but yet it still has the same really good battery life. But as Marquez pointed out, which I fully agree with, is if it hadn't been for that really petty, we want it to be thinner than Samsung's one, they could have kept the same. They could have kept the same thickness, which was already strikingly thin, and had an insane battery life. And again, it's smartphone thinness race all over again. It's just like, what do people care about? Long battery life or how thin it is? Like, don't get me wrong, I don't want the phone to be a brick, but I think if you ask, like 90% of people are going to be like, hell yeah, I want the battery to last 50% longer, you know, because more battery life is always useful, whereas thinness is just like, I don't know, man. But yeah,
I guess if as a byproduct of making it thinner, they noticeably reduce the weight of it, then you'd be like, I can kind of see a benefit off of that. You good there?
that's a lot of hops.
Oh,
in
okay.
that.
You look like you'd just taken a shot of pure ethanol and were just like,
Yeah, like it's in the name. It says it's hopped, fresh and zingy, Hogan's hip hop, but that's a lot of flowers in that. I don't hate it. I feel like hops is supposed to be something you hate, but I don't hate it. But yeah, no camera. Yes, I went to show it on camera, but we weren't on camera. We could probably switch back to that now we've finished ice creaming. And yes, there's the Hogan's Hip Hop, fresh and zingy.
I'm fresh and zany. I am with the kids.
It's true.
How do you do, fellow children?
But yeah, so yeah, new iPads are out, and I think the other thing as well is we've also got to keep in mind that while we criticise the new thing for being incrementally better than the previous one, there is also the extremely valid response of, so don't buy it then. You don't have to buy the latest one every time, you know. We have to bear in mind that some people are buying an iPad because they don't own an iPad. So why wouldn't you just make the best one you possibly can every year? You know, what I have a problem with is if the marketing ever suggests that you should be buying this over the previous generation one. And in a way, I don't even think that's what they're implying, because a lot of the time, in most benchmarks, they'll usually compare to 2 generations ago, not the previous generation. Not just simply because it's like, obviously if they compare to 2 generations ago, their incremental improvements look a lot more substantial. But also, I think they know that they're trying to target people who didn't buy one who bought one a couple of years ago and might be thinking of replacing it. Whereas someone who bought one last year has no intention of replacing it because they only just got it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's very much a case of just only really looking at replacing, certainly on tablet stuff, when it no longer receives current OS versions. And basically, you know, what's that going to be, 5 years from release?
Yeah. For me, the only time I feel like replacing a mobile device is when it actually starts feeling slow. You know, that's why I started replacing my P20, because it just started feeling slow. It wasn't devastating, but it was a couple of years old and it was starting to feel like a bit lethargic. I was having to wait for apps to open in an annoying way. And I was just like, oh, yeah, I'm out of contract on this anyway, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But yes, as I say, you know, I'm running a Pixel 6. It still feels fast and responsive, and it's, yeah, even though it's a couple of generations old now, I would still say it's a high-end phone. And with an iPad, I would say no less. Certainly these days, when customers bring in iPads, man, I've got no idea how old an iPad is unless I actually look up the serial number, you know. And like in a way, your laptop is almost a really good example of this as well, with the fact of, you know, that laptop looks incredibly shiny and it's 10 years old.
Yeah.
We've peaked in design, and like with tablets now, as we're proving with the M4 stuff, they are as fast as they need to be. They don't need to be any faster. And we can't really, you know, the design has peaked because you can only refine a square by so much. We don't, you know, we can't make the bezels any thinner. And yeah, so I guess thinness race and battery life is the way forward. And out of the two, I'd rather they work on the battery life, but yeah, they're not. Also, hello, Paige.
Yeah.
Did you see that ad for whatever tat iPod they were selling because they crushed a lot of expensive, nice-looking, creative things like pianos, cameras? Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't like, Apple's recycling program is a bit nah. Like, e-waste recycling is... I don't know how much e-waste recycling involves actually shredding, but Apple's method of just crushing everything into toxic dust sure as hell ain't it, chief. But I don't know enough about the details to really weigh in on that. But I greatly dislike the idea of trading in working devices. But also, though, just I don't know, we're in post-capitalism days, and it feels like that's difficult to escape with everything. Like I just said that I replaced my phone because it was feeling kind of slow, but that phone is still in service there on the front counter. I don't think I would have replaced my phone until it had actually broken, were it not for the fact that I wanted a phone to sit on the shop front counter anyway. So I was like, I'll put my phone on the shop counter to run the card machine, which gives me an excuse to buy a shiny new one.
Mm.
So yeah, it's extremely rare for me to actually throw something out.
We know.
All right. Whatever, bruv.
I am struggling to type.
Mm.
Yeah, but something I did think was interesting.
Yeah.
There's a video from Fully Charged about Apple's recycling.
Okay.
And about the, I think it was the Lisa robot, or Daisy? No, it was Daisy.
Yeah.
And basically it drills the devices, like smacks the parts out of them, drills through the casing, separates out the metals, separates out the things, takes out the circuit board, things like that, and they all get split out into different bins. So like the metal casings will get melted down, the glass will have been separated off, and things like that.
Okay, so they are actually doing decent separation.
Yeah, so you end up with, I can't remember if they show you like the actual parts bin at the end, but somewhere, yeah, basically you can see all the bins behind him. They're all separated bits from like the metal casing, or like, you know, the circuit boards and things like that. So it's just
I think that's interesting, and it's good that is happening.
Yeah, and apparently they're looking to have 100% of their e-waste processed in that fashion, and I think it was a case of 100% of their battery materials coming from recycled batteries by something like 2030.
Okay,
was their goal or something like that.
Yeah,
which was interesting, and something like 99% of the metal for their phone cases, not phones cases, but the chassis of the phone, to come from recycled iPhones.
All right, that's
which is certainly an interesting goal.
Yeah, if actually attained, that's not too bad, because I was about to say all of this kind of doesn't solve the core problem of post-capitalism, everyone's got to keep buying, throwaway society kind of thing. Like, it's the issue of we can applaud good recycling, but you don't need to recycle if we weren't a throwaway society, is essentially the thing I was going to say. And that's a half-truth.
But stuff will still break and stuff will still reach end of usable life.
Yes, I agree. And I think, however, I think we should also be striving for the maximum possible useful life. And I don't think that's something that a lot of companies are actually striving for.
Half and half.
Yeah.
I think we should be not intentionally reducing the usable life.
Yeah.
But enhancing the usable life to the detriment of improving features, performance, etc., is benefiting no one.
Yeah.
Making something last longer for the sole purpose of making it last longer, but making it worse to use because of that, doesn't seem like actual overall benefit.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to draw any kind of definitive line in the sand here because a lot of it is very case-by-case basis.
Oh yeah.
So,
and but it is also, as Si says, with the 3 R's, the first one is reduce. Obviously, if you can reduce the usage of it in the first place, consume less anyway, the reusing and the recycling is less.
Yeah. And so while that doesn't necessarily apply here, and I'm giving a very extreme example here, but it's one of those things where we need to be mindful of this problem, which is a while back there were lots of pictures of carbon capture plants where there were there was a big plant facility with lots of
plants as in green things.
No, walls of fans that took air and filtered the carbon out of it, and they were like, we're taking this many tons of CO2 out of the air per day, per hour, per year, whatever. But what they fail to mention is that the electricity that they use in order to do that puts more into the air. And they're like, yes, but we'll run them on solar panels. It's like, why don't you just run solar panels to the houses so then we use less fossil fuels in the power plants in the first place? You're not solving the core problem here, Yeah. And so, again, extreme example, but that's the thing. You need to be mindful that you're focusing on the root of the problem and you're not just trying to solve symptoms. And obviously, good recycling of e-waste is a symptom. We need to reduce the e-waste in the first place. But, as you say, there is still going to be e-waste, so we should know how to deal with that. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of, the same issue with dealing with hazardous, semi-hazardous waste and things like that. Obviously, it's a case of you want to reduce the amount of hazardous and semi-hazardous waste there is in existence. But it's also the fact of there's always going to be some, so you should probably work out how to deal with it.
Yes, agreed.
You can never assume that there will be 100% safety, for example.
Yeah.
You need to have a process for when things go wrong.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a process for when things go wrong...
Yeah, and to that extent, it is amazing how well the 3 Rs, actually hold up, because it's just like, reduce, reuse, recycle. It really does work on all fronts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that term since like school, I think. Yeah. But yeah, it's a good moniker.
Yeah. But yeah, we're getting there on some fronts. Yeah, we're seeing more interest in kind of all of the facets of doing less damage from larger companies.
Yeah.
So it's a case of...
I think it's also just things reaching critical mass as well. Like, because we were discussing earlier on about how difficult the new MacBooks are to replace screens on. And what I hope is that we are actually reaching a critical mass where repairability is actually getting so bad that the public will actually revolt against these devices, because, like, as far as the public is concerned, they don't really care how hard it is to repair so long as someone can repair it. From the consumer's perspective, they're like, I don't care if it's difficult to replace the screen because I'm not the one replacing it. I'll just take it to a repair shop. However, if all the repair shops are suddenly turning around and are just going, no, we can't fix these, and suddenly you can't get it fixed, suddenly you're like, okay, now I have a problem because I literally cannot get the device repaired, And so that's what I mean by a critical mass. And I think we are reaching that with just other things where, if it actually starts to affect people's lives, people will actually start caring. And it's a shame that something actually has to get bad enough to reach that point. However, for better or for worse, there will be a finite point where people are forced to care.
Yeah.
But yeah. Reploid says, going to need a lot of bullshit for that to happen. I agree, but, if you look at how bad it... Like, when you look at the fact of, with MacBooks, I replace a lot of MacBook screens, and the M3 right now, as it stands, if someone comes in with an M3 MacBook, I'm like, no, I can't replace the screen on this. You've got to take it to Apple, and just look happy and get your wallet out, and and I think that is going to get. I think that is going to get worse, and already I'm saying to people who are saying, oh, I'm thinking of buying a new Apple. I am saying, you can if you want. They're lovely computers, but keep in your mind that Apple will kick you in the teeth for the storage, and if you ever drop it, they'll kick you in the teeth for the repair bill as well. And it's going to cost you arms and legs to buy it in the first place. Because this is the problem, it's not just rich people buying these products. When someone with more money than sense is buying this, well, who cares? They've got more money than sense. But lots of middle-class people will buy these because they want to own nice things. And, when you actually say to them, keep in mind, if you drop this, this is a really expensive investment that you're proposing to buy. And if you drop it, Apple will tell you to buy another one. And you'll look at them and be like, what do you mean buy another one? This was £1,500. And they'll be like, yeah, the replacement screen is $1,400. So you may as well buy another one. Oh, it's 2 years old. Oh, well, that's vintage. You've got to buy the new one. And if the repair shops are all turning around going like, no, we can't replace the screens on that because it's that much of a ball ache, you're going to hit a critical mass and people will actually start revolting.
Don't worry, we can spread your old device. It's not the old device they're spreading. Yeah.
Ooh.
That sounded like it embedded itself in the ceiling tile.
Yeah, they sound very violent when they ping off like that. I try to avoid it.
When did the Macs get bonded screens?
Was it? I think it was M3. Well, actually, I think it was the 16-inch.
Because wasn't it? I meant like the display assembly is mechanically bonded.
Retina onwards. So,
which was 2012.
2012 onwards.
Yeah.
And
then actually serialized was M1, wasn't it?
No, serialized is M3 or 16-inch. I think the 16-inch has a serialized screen. However, I've done M2 screen replacements.
Oh, I see. I thought you had to do like True Tone.
Oh, yes and no. You lose True Tone on the new ones, but I think that's just because of third-party panels or something like that. I'm not sure. However, basically you just don't get True Tone, but no one gives a shit about True Tone. So, yeah, I don't think I know anyone who actually cares about True Tone, because if you're a casual user, you don't really care about True Tone because you don't even know what it is. And if you're a professional, like you're a professional creator, you have True Tone turned off, so it's not tinting the colours on your screen. So, Reploid, True Tone is it's basically automatic white balance. Think of Nightlight on steroids, basically, or
it makes everything red and completely breaks all of your colours.
Yeah. the idea is it's supposed to make sure that your whites are always balanced depending on the surrounding light. How successful it is at that, I'm not sure. Apparently it's all...
It basically
blows
makes
out the
everything
reds.
red and just makes everything awful.
Yeah. But at any rate, yeah, the average person won't notice the difference, and a creator will want it turned off because they want to see real colours, not not True Tone's approximation of how it thinks that colour should look in the moment.
Yeah, it's why people pay money for stuff to get calibrated.
Yeah.
You know, when a MacBook boots up and the colour suddenly shifts. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that's Nightlight, but as I say, True Tone is... Nightlight isn't adjusted to anything. Nightlight is just, we slowly tint it a bit more yellow depending on the time of day to just to reduce eye strain. And I support that. You know, I use Nightlight, I like it. However, True Tone is actually supposed to be... True Tone is actually measuring the surrounding light color temperature. So if you're under direct sunlight, you're under daylight calibrated. If you're indoors and you're under incandescent calibrated, it will adjust for that. So it's actually adjusting it to a calibrated level instead of just making it a bit more yellow because it's evening, you know. However, I say calibrated, but it's still tinting the color. So for a creator, it's still giving you a false impression of what the color is.
Something, anything that isn't D65 is wrong.
Indeed.
To you too.
Switch.
How many have you made? 3.
I've done 3 on stream, and I think I'd done one of them before we started. So yeah, I'm getting a lot faster at these now. I think I've figured out the order to make these in, where I'm actually bashing them together pretty fast.
Have you worked out your costs for these?
Yes, approximately.
Are you actually making any money on them?
Yes, not as much as I should or have hoped.
So I'll take that as a no.
No, I am. Let me think. I think my cost on a set is $100.
Oh, okay.
And I'm selling them. A couple of friends are getting some early sets at $150, including postage. So I'm going to end up making like $30, which at the end of the day is like, oh, okay, I'm getting 27 quid out of this. That wasn't really worth it. But I'm certainly not taking a loss. Then to general customers, it's $200 a set. So then, and again, that does include postage. So that's, in the real world, that's going to equate to probably like $80 or $90 profit, depending on where I'm posting to. So, you know, I'm still getting like 70 quid out of a set at that point. And that sounds like a lot, but you know, these are it does take the best part. Like, I can probably do one per half hour, I guess. So it's still going to be 2 or 3 hours to assemble them, and I do a full actual real life testing run on them as well. Where I go to a large VR chat meet on Friday nights, and I'm usually playing for about 5 hours. And so my test run for these sets, which I've done on all the other sets I've made so far, like this blue set here, involves me using them at that meet. Yeah. So that way they've had a good 5-hour test, so that's given me enough time to observe how much they're drifting and spot any of them that fall over after an hour use, or like I've had one of them before where one of them had a faulty IMU on it, where I noticed one of the trackers was drifting way more than the rest. Like, all of them will drift a bit over time. That's just normal. That's how these things work. But if one of them has gone like 90 degrees out while the rest of them are at 20 degrees, there's something wrong with that tracker. You know, they should all have about the same kind of characteristics because they've all got the same components in them. So that gives me a chance to spot any outliers before I send them out. And then the other thing as well, which I'm doing, is I'm including You get 8 trackers, you get buckles and strap, cheap buckles and strap, but still enough to actually get started with, because a lot of sellers just don't include the straps. They're like, yeah, you've got to sort that out yourself. And I'm also including a spare case, so if you do actually smash one of them, you actually have a spare case and you can just put it into a new case. However, I deliberately broke one of these earlier on and discovered that, man, they're tougher than they look. Because one of them, I did an experiment where I put a tiny spot of glue on 2 corners of the lid just to see if that would hold it shut nicely while still being openable. And no, it just welded the lid shut. That boy was not opening, and by the time I opened it, it just completely destroyed the lid. So I was like, well, now I've broken this, I'm going to try and cut the battery out. And one of the things I noticed was last week I was putting a little bit of double-sided tape underneath the battery. That's way too strong. The average person is not going to be able to get the battery out from that.
Oh, they're just not going to give it the pry.
Yeah, and like when I started prying, I was like, oh no, that's bad. That's going to end badly. I actually had to spray some alcohol in there to get to...
I see.
I had to spray some alcohol in the back to dissolve the glue so I could then get it out. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll just cut the case open, because then I could tell people, yeah, the battery's glued in, so you've got to cut your... If the case is broken anyway, get some pliers, cut the thing open. And I was like, oh boy, no, that's not happening either. No, we got to stop gluing the batteries in. That's not viable. Or I've got to find another way of making sure that they're a snug enough fit that I don't have to use double-sided tape. So, yeah.
I think everyone's consensus is you're not charging enough.
I agree. But certainly these first runs that I'm doing it as a project for a bit of fun for people I know. All the sets that I'm making and selling are going to people that I know at the moment. But I'm doing it cheap, just so if there are any teething problems, I can be like, hey, they were cheap, okay? You know, I will sort this out for you, but you can't be angry because they were cheap, you know. I mean,
from the point of view of a seller, the person's going to get angry with you either way.
I guess.
So you might as well charge them a rate that actually earns you money.
I suppose, yeah. I will probably be putting up, I'm still undecided on, I mean, I guess if I increase the price more, then I would probably be a bit more serious about doing this long term. Because, you know, right now I'm looking at the commission list, and like, at the moment, based on my commission list, I'm just like, I'm going to need to order more parts. So, and for that to be worthwhile, I've got to order parts in reasonable quantity. So it's begging the question, if I am I going to order another 40 batteries? Because if I do that, I'm committing to making another 4 or 5 sets. You know, so yeah. But you're right. I think a lot of people seem to be very happy with the price. So I could probably go to, say, $250 for a set of 8.
I think what I would be doing is
or just price match everyone else.
I would be looking at because what's the bare minimum number you need for it to function? Could you use 4?
5 is the minimum for it to work, and 6 is the recommended minimum for a full body experience, because 5 is legs and hip. However, adding in number 6, so you've got chest and hip.
As you said that is leg and hip, I was like, how many legs do you have? But 2 points on the leg.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you got you need ankle, thigh times 2, so that's 4. 1 for the hip, that's 5. But adding in number 6 for the chest, so your hip and your chest are separate. So then you can turn your upper chest without your hip turning. And likewise, your hip can move independently of your chest. That adds a lot, and I don't think it's worth doing 5 sets. I think if you're spending the money, you may as well get a minimum of 6. And in addition to that, I think adding in the feet is well worthwhile. So that's why I'm doing sets of 8.
I think you should sell sets of 6.
Yeah.
For $250.
That will go over what other people are charging. You'll just get a better deal somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
But do yours work?
Yes, but other people have got nice designs as well. I think that's the other thing as well, is after I've over-ordered this particular PCB, because I was set with this one, but there is a slightly more refined PCB that's a little bit smaller again, called the Meow Carrier, because of course it is.
It carries meows.
And once I've used up all these PCBs, of which I have many, so actually I've still got to make this many more of them, but after I've used up all these PCBs, I would then switch to the Meow Carrier design, which is again a little bit smaller. And I think at that point I'll be using what I would define as a modern design, because also other people are selling with more updated designs that again a bit slimmer, a bit more up to date, and so on. But we are talking optimizations here; they're not worlds apart. So,
right. But do yours work?
Yes.
How many of the ones out there for a higher price than you're selling them for don't work?
It's hard to tell. You know, I hear a lot of horror stories, but also a lot of those people are selling high volume, so there's going to be some horror stories.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do agree though. I will be putting up the price. I'm just charging low at the moment while I just figure out all the kinks, because like I've changed the case design from the first set that's boxed up and ready to go out already. And, you know, part of me was just like, should I unbox those and put them in the new case? But I'm like, no, they're getting them cheap. That's why the price was cheap, because they're getting development versions while I figure out the design that I'm selling, you know. So yeah, I think I'm going to do sets of 6 for $200 and then do the 8 set for like probably $240 or something like that, because the argument is that you're fundamentally paying, say, about you're paying approximately $15 to $20 per tracker. So if you're doing 6 for $200, 8 should be costing no more than $240 at that point. So yeah, they can always find new cases. This is true. 3D printing is cheap if you want, and that's also exactly why I'm using this very known design, because I have on order custom PCBs for an updated version of my trackers, and I've designed a refined version of this one that's 10 millimeters smaller and uses a newer micro. Like I've just taken these, got delivered today. This is the ESP C3 Super Mini microcontroller, and if I show a size comparison, you can see how much smaller than it is than the D1 that you can see how much smaller than it is than the D1 that I'm using at the moment. So my updated version of this tracker is going to be a lot smaller, and again, this is starting to become a highly optimized tracker, but it's also a very custom design that is going to be difficult to find support for. These ones, there are a dozen case designs that this PCB will fit inside. So yeah. So yes.
Also, as Cy and JD are saying, your maths sucks.
Probably. 250 weight would be.
Six for 200 is 33 each. So selling 8 for 250 is already a decent discount.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay, fair enough then.
So you were massively over discounting the 8 set.
Oh,
the
okay,
8 set should be a minimum of 250.
I mean,
based off of what you were saying.
Okay, in my defense, I'm making up these numbers on the spot while drinking cider and soldering slimes together on a live stream. What's your excuse?
What's my excuse? I don't need one. My maths is impeccable.
Impeccable.
Impeccable. It cannot be questioned.
Either way, yes.
My numbers are always correct.
My logic is undeniable. But yeah, I will put up the price. However, it's just early days in this project.
Yes.
But then also,
if you think I am wrong, you are mistaken.
If I put up my price, that would incentivize me to keep going, because, you know, I was at the point where I'm like, I have enjoyed this, but I think I'm kind of doing it as a project that I'm going to make a dozen sets and then get bored of it and stop doing it. Not because there was a problem with it, just because it was just a thing I did because I enjoyed the process of doing it. It was a fun project.
I think if I were doing it, my answer would be, if I need to buy more supplies, the price is going up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you run out of people who want them, or run out of interest in doing it without ordering any more supplies,
Yeah.
just sell them all off at the price you are. If you do order more, those ones that are made from the new set of supplies, the third set of supplies effectively,
Yeah.
sell for the higher price.
Yeah. Because like what I was planning on doing once I reached the end of my current commission queue was I would make sure balls. I'm basically going to make one more set than I need. Because then I've got that on hand as warranty replacements, because the warranty procedure for these will be, if someone says, hey, my tracker doesn't work, I will say, post the faulty one to me and I will post you another one.
Yeah.
And then whatever is wrong with that, I will just fix that, because they're modular.
Yeah.
So I will have a complete set on hand for warranty replacements, and then in the meantime, if someone then ordered a set, I'd be like, I have some ready to go, print the cases, ship them, so that's turned around immediately, make another spare set.
Yeah.
So I'll probably have a rolling set of one in stock, and by that point there's no time credit. So even if I'm because the problem is the batteries are the problem. These bastards are the issue, because the lead time on these is 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Basically, that's the problem. Everything else I can get within 10 days. The batteries are a month.
Yeah.
That's what makes it difficult. But then on the other hand, if I've got to the point where I have a spare set, it doesn't really matter too much if I'm waiting a month for another 10 batteries to show up.
Yeah.
Because no one has ordered that set yet, so I'm not in a hurry to finish it. So yeah.
The other difficulty is just posting batteries.
Yeah, I mean, they're integrated into a product, so I'm basically just gambling on the don't ask, don't tell. Because, you know, like I post laptops all the time and those have batteries in.
Yeah.
These are batteries that are integrated into a product, so as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter. So yeah. And yeah, as far as the costs breakdown, yeah, my costs breakdown do not include my time. However, I have my costs. I have a spreadsheet. Actually, are we logged into the Adamant IT account on this? Yeah, we are. If you open Google Sheets, and go Slime VR trackers, don't show this on screen because it has people's names on it. Yep, that's fine.
I'm just proving a point.
Oh, I know. I'm
just proving a point before I click on the thing.
But yeah, and then if you go to the Adamant BMI 270 tab, that's the cost breakdown on an order set. The price on those, I think those prices are fairly accurate at the moment.
Yeah.
And you could show that on screen. So just as, you could show that on screen just as an example. There's no sensitive information there. Boop.
Huh. Oh.
Stand by.
There we go.
Aha.
Ta-da.
Yeah. So there's the cost breakdown on these trackers. So that's all the parts right down to the resistors and the battery connectors, which cost like they cost less than a penny, but I've put them in at a penny because that's like I'm not going to track anything less than that, you know. That's the cost breakdown on these trackers. The only thing that doesn't factor in is time, but obviously time is extremely difficult to quantify, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm making these as a hobby, so I'm assuming my time is free, and I'm just interested in assuming that I'm making some profit on that, so it was worth the trouble, you know. So
here's a spreadsheet with a particular set of formulas.
Yes.
And here comes Graham's private pictures.
Why would those be on the Adamant IT account?
All of the pictures you've been sent from your VR sessions. This is my upward dog.
My upward dog?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Downward facing dog, you pleb.
No, what's up, dog?
Oh, I thought you were doing a yoga joke. Or were you just doing 4D chess and doing a yoga joke that is also what's up, dog?
Yes.
Okay. I hope I've sufficiently destroyed your joke that it's now worthless and dead and in
yes.
pieces on the ground.
This is my pear tree pose.
Oh, come on. Wow. I just didn't put any solder on that.
Let's not see Graham's pictures. Indeed.
We have to see your pics all the time, Sai. Exclusive room is just the what's going on at SciTech today room.
Imagine for a moment that you posted exclusive content.
Okay, ow. I do now and then. There are exclusive clips. Everyone saw the cum chip early. Well, I posted the picture outside of exclusive, but the actual clip of that was in exclusive.
I about died.
Yeah, so everyone got to see the cum chip reaction early.
Exclusive chat is just Size Cat Visitor channel.
It's true, but I don't hate it. I appreciate it. Sai is helping shore up
I'd
the
settle
exclusive
for merch
content.
at this point.
Man. I came out for a good time and I'm honestly feeling so attacked right now. Again though, ticket list is coming down, so like that actually means that stuff is more likely to get done.
There are many cats.
Steve Higgins says, the what? Are you unaware of the cum chip, Steve? Have you not seen the latest video?
Tell me you don't watch all the videos without telling me you don't watch.
I can't believe you don't watch my content. What kind of fan are you?
When was that stream? October? No, the stream was 11 months ago, JD. The merch stream.
Oh, the merch stream. Oh God, yeah.
The merch stream where Graham said if it's not out by October.
I don't want to talk about this anymore. Oh, bridge. Balls.
Bridge balls.
Oh, I bridged the solder. There we go. Oh, the solder is at an annoying point of the spool where it's right at the bottom. What the hell? There we go. It's right at the bottom of the spool and it keeps catching, so I can't just pull another loop out.
Imagine getting money from people so they can wear your face. I mean, I want to take his face.
Oh. Still haven't seen that movie.
What?
Never seen Face Off? Yeah, I know. I really should have because, man, I heckin' love John Travolta and Nicolas Cage and Chris... Who was the guy from Broken Arrow? Main character from Broken Arrow. Who was the actor? Chat, help me. I love all... Sorry.
Broken Arrow? What the hell's Broken Arrow? It's
a 90s action flick.
Oh, okay.
I loved all those films.
Face Off is 100%
Christian
ham.
Slater. Yeah, I thought it was Christian.
I mean, if you took someone's face off, it would turn into ham, yes.
Or you're watching Equilibrium, in which case the bad guy gets his face cut off and it just kind of goes plap onto the floor. Which is just comically funny in a moment that's supposed to be extremely tense.
Also, I enjoy just the idea of the fact of Equilibrium. The entire, thing was effectively they dance with guns.
Equilibrium had some interesting ideas. It was like, could you make a martial arts out of pistol gunplay? And like my understanding is they did actually put a legitimate amount of thought into this, where they said if you busted into a room, what is the most optimized firing pattern that would guarantee you would probably hit all opponents in the room? If you just fired in a specific pattern, you will, you don't know where they're standing, but if you fire at all these points, you're going to get everyone in the room, kind of thing. That was effectively the proposition. It's like, that's not insane. The reality, obviously, is insane. But also, though,
but it's also the fact of why wouldn't someone shoot you as you're walking through the door?
I think the idea is that you do it too fast, kind of thing, you know. But yeah. However, like there was a cartoonish amount of rule of cool to make it work, but the proposition was there, and I kind of appreciate that. I think that's what makes a good action movie. It doesn't have to be real per se.
I just enjoy that one of the major fight scenes has the main character stand perfectly still in a room and just go,
yeah.
Look like he's navigating several planes at once to landing points.
Yeah, but also, like, if we look at anything else by modern comparison, man, it's a good thing that no one thought to shoot John Wick in the face at any point. Otherwise, that'd just be the end of that, wouldn't it?
Right!
You just like, he's wearing armor. We'll just keep shooting him in the armor. Not a single one of us ever thinks to go for a headshot. Because that would be the end of that.
That was the thing that made the first film somewhat okay.
Yeah, I liked the
first. The second, third, fourth, ninth, however many there are, they're all ridiculous.
And I still appreciate them for being a bunch of stunt directors strutting their stuff.
Yes.
But the realism was gone very quickly after the first film, and even during the first film. The fact of who was the assassin with the sniper rifle, played by the old dude? I can't remember his name. with the leather face, you know. Come on, these are not unreasonable things I'm saying. The guy with the sniper rifle, kind of old. William Dafoe. There we go. See, Radar knows what's going on. The guy played by William Dafoe had a clean sniper rifle shot at John Wick with ease from well outside the concierge. So like anyone could kill John Wick anytime they want. It wasn't difficult. It's not difficult, you know. So we can't pretend that it's realistic. But that's not what it's about.
The guy with the face, unlike the guy with the face off.
I couldn't deal with the third movie. I just gave up. I didn't like the ending to the third movie because the third movie, as it panned out, it was difficult because it was a lot of bad things happening to the hero, kind of thing, but also it was a dramatic shake-up of the status quo in the movie's universe. And it seemed to be setting up the ending as a complete change of the status quo into something else. But at the end of the movie, the status quo is restored and John Wick is on the run again. So we're literally back where we started at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And that was why I didn't like the ending of John Wick 3 and why I just haven't bothered with John Wick 4. I should watch it at some point because I still like the action sequences. I still like the gunplay just for the sake of it.
John Wick 4 is not a film you watch for watching something that's in any way coherent or...
Yeah. John's story needed to be concluded in the third film. And if they wanted to make more movies, which they should because they're awesome action movies, they should have followed any one of the millions of other cool characters that they were coming up with. Like, all the movies keep coming up with cool characters. Make movies about them, man. You've built a really cool universe. You don't need Keanu Reeves, who, man, Keanu's getting old. I'm sorry, but he's getting old. You know, he's too old for this shit, man. Pass the torch.
There were several points watching John Wick 4 where I was sat in the cinema going, oh, that's a good camera placement. Oh, yeah, that was a good camera placement. Oh, I like the way they've played that out. Completely ignoring what any of it is supposedly got to do with the story.
Yeah.
And just does, just like, I see this film has completely lost me. As I'm there kind of analysing the camera placement and so on, and like the way they've set up scenes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh well. One jick. What is this? Two guys do film reviews?
Sometimes.
No, because
Yeah.
that would infer knowledge or competency. This is one guy hates everything, and Graham.
Yeah. You're waiting for a second Constantine movie. Oh, I wouldn't bet on that. Constantine was a good film. I don't know anything about the books, but it looked like the comic rather, like with zero knowledge of the comic, it looks like a good recreation of a comic character. I don't know how well received it was, but like based on the fact that I knew it was based on a comic, I was like, oh, I can see how these are all recognizable characters from that comic. And they are all, you know, by one means or another fulfilling their role. And yeah, I think Constantine's a good film. Very good for people who like that kind of genre. Including, you know, people who like films like Dogma and that kind of modern occult with a bit of a 90s feel to it. And also just, I like Keanu Reeves. You know, everyone says that he's very wooden and stuff, but I don't know, I like his demeanor. I'm not sure that I would say he's a good actor from the perspective of he's one of those actors where he's just Keanu Reeves in everything. But if you like what he is, then you'll enjoy his movies.
Yes. I see.
Is this the trailer for Constantine or something?
For Constantine 2.
Oh, there is a trailer for Constantine 2. Oh, I see.
Yes.
When was this trailer released?
This year.
Oh, I see. I didn't realise this was a real thing that was happening. Okay. Yeah, I thought that was a very... I thought it was kind of odd. I was just like, you're waiting for Constantine 2? Good luck with that. But okay, yeah, they're actually doing it.
God, Keanu Reeves looks like he's about 18.
I saw a picture of him just then, and like he's obviously got a haircut for this, and I was like, no way, that's modern. He looks so young. Like maybe all this, you know, I was just talking smack about him looking too old. I mean, I think that's partly how he's supposed to look in John Wick, because he's supposed to be getting a bit too old for this.
Wait, there's a Legend of Zelda film?
Oh God.
Oh no.
Concern. I mean, that much being said, right? Okay, Legend of Zelda film.
Oh my God, there's
I have not seen
no.
the Mario movie. Oh no. But I believe the Mario movie was very well received. And after Mario, Zelda is Nintendo's next most coveted IPs. So I could believe that there might be a chance of a Legend of Zelda movie not being terrible. Come on, guys, 59 is not old. No, 59 isn't old, but it's a bit old to be doing action sequences, maybe. I don't know. But then also just... maybe it's just John Wick, because in John Wick he's constantly tired and too old and done with everything. But also that's John Wick's character. So maybe I'm just underestimating Keanu's
really?
acting.
Really? Really? There's yet another Mummy film. Also, there's an I Am Legend 2. I'm like, how is there an I Am Legend 2? How?
Especially because the ending of the first one was terrible.
It completely missed the entire point as to why the film's called I Am Legend.
Yeah, the ending of I Am Legend is so terrible that I didn't actually understand the film. And then later on, I was talking about it with someone, and they said, "Oh, because of X and Y." And I'm like, "Well, that's not what happened in the film." And they were like, "Oh, you don't know." And it's just like, yeah, they cocked up the end of the film
Yeah.
so badly
Yeah.
that literally the opposite thing of what was supposed to happen happened.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I Am Legend, the book,
yeah.
is all about how the character is legend because of...
He is the boogeyman.
Yes, he
Yeah.
is the boogeyman. He is Baba Yaga.
Yeah. However, the film was too busy explaining how he had to back up all of his stuff onto all of his Apple hardware before actually doing this.
And killing his dog.
Yeah. I've got that movie on DVD. I watched it once, and I've just never watched it a second time. I just never cared to go back to it.
Check out Peter Jackson's first ever film, Bad Taste.
Peter Jackson did some wild stuff in his early films, but also I believe he was more... I believe those films are more like sort of... I use horror with a very loose sense of the term, but I don't know. I don't know if they're action flicks as such. I might be wrong though, because I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
I want to rewatch Lord of the Rings sometime because I haven't watched that in years.
I have only watched Fellowship of the Ring, and I watched it and went, that's 3 hours of my life I'm not getting back.
Oh, really? I mean, granted, I haven't watched the directors, the extended versions of them, because I'm still undecided as to whether I'm going to watch the extended versions on the rewatch or not. I feel like I should. Like, if I'm going to go back to them, I should go back and watch the quote-unquote definitive version of it. But also, that's a hell of a time commitment.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it 12 hours per film?
I don't know. You sound like you're exaggerating, but...
Lord of the Rings extended.
By the way, if anyone has like tech news or something, then we can talk about that. This is just the subject we're on. It's 3 hours each, so yeah, it's 12 hours total then, yeah.
Extended runtime for Fellowship of the Ring is 3 hours 30. The Two Towers is 3 hours 43. Return of the King is 4 hours 11.
That much being said, I still haven't seen...
That's not...
I haven't seen any of the Hobbit trilogy. I completely slept on those.
So did the people who watched them. I mean, made them.
I mean, I think whether you like them or not, I think the modern Lord of the Rings films are a triumph of cinematography. They are a skilled director and production crew with a no-holds-barred budget and showing what can be done when there's no limits kind of thing. And I think whether you like them or not, that makes them interesting.
Hobbit is nifty, turn off your brain and watch movies, same as Transformers. Oh, no, no, no. Apparently they're making an adaptation of a single page in the books where Aragorn went to find Gollum. Excellent.
Not sure that's something we... Well, content mill go brr, I guess. You know a film that I want to rewatch at some point?
No, I don't.
Okay.
What is it?
Jupiter Ascending.
I've not even heard of it.
Did you not go to the cinema with it when we went to see it in the Netplay days? Yeah. Well, it came out during the Netplay days. And I think it's the Wachowski sisters. Might be wrong. But Jupiter Ascending, it was a brand new IP for a very sort of sci-fi space action film. that had it had the Riddick style mood to it, and it wasn't a terribly good movie, and it was a very simple by the numbers story and script, but it was new and original. It was something different. It wasn't just another remake, another reboot, another sequel.
Its Rotten Tomato rating is 28%.
Yeah, I thought, absolutely shockingly bad film. Oh, no. Everyone hates it. I'm not saying it's a good movie, but man, I appreciated it existing.
It looks like... What is... Who thought that character design was acceptable character design?
He's an alien or something, I don't know. I want to watch it again because
it looks like someone literally ripped off Farscape and then made it even worse and even gayer.
Well, okay, either way, I appreciated Jupiter Ascending existing and I want to watch it again. Thora Heard enjoyed it. You're welcome in my home, Thora.
Meg in space. Okay.
Did Jupiter ascend? I can't remember. It was... She did ascend during the movie, effectively. It's a question of I can't remember where she finished up.
Oh my gosh. The film had Channing Tatum, Mila Kunis, Eddie Redmayne, Sean Bean.
Can you guess what part Sean Bean plays?
Her father.
Is that actually the answer?
I don't
know.
I've not seen the film.
You're looking at the bloody cast. I couldn't remember, but I was going to say, would you be shocked if I told you he plays a bad guy?
Oh, I thought you were going to say, would you be shocked if I told you he died?
That might also happen, but can't remember.
Don't do it, Alec.
For England, James.
I am not ashamed to admit that I greatly enjoy the Pierce Brosnan Bond films.
Oh, big same. I love 90s action movies. So the Pierce Brosnan Bond movies were gold as far as I'm concerned. They were fantastic. I appreciated the who's the modern guy? Craig. I nearly said Craig Davis then.
Craig David.
I went to MI6 on Monday.
I went to the M6 on Monday.
And then I nearly corrected myself to Craig Charles. Welcome to Robot Wars.
We both went in the same place, I'm pleased.
Yeah. Right. Who's the modern James Bond from, like, Casino Royale? Someone help me. Daniel Craig. There we go. I really like the Daniel Craig ones as modern movies, but Pierce Brosnan Bond will always hold a special place in my heart. The movies, not Pierce Brosnan specifically.
I like the fact he felt the need to clarify. So, interesting random little factoid.
Go. I can feel an anecdote coming on.
Pierce Brosnan
Yeah.
had a clause in his contract
Yeah.
that whilst he was actor for James Bond,
Yeah.
he could not appear in film in a tuxedo.
Oh.
The image of him in a tuxedo was owned, as far as I understand, by Broccoli.
Okay, so Broccoli was the original writer of
The directors. Yeah.
the directors. Yeah.
Yeah. With the people who were the directors.
Oh, I see. So he was only allowed to be in a tuxedo as James Bond in a broccoli movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he then, when he stopped being James Bond, he could then appear in films in tuxedos again.
Yes, because otherwise people could mistake it for being, oh, look, it's James Bond.
Effectively, because
Yeah.
he was so synonymous. His portrayal of James Bond at the time in
Yeah.
a tuxedo was so synonymous with James Bond and so on.
Yeah, because he was the first. Okay. He was the first modern James Bond.
I mean, you look at who was before him.
Yeah, like, because at that point, that was the point where the movies really sort of kicked into high gear, wasn't it? Also, someone is. There's a super chat. We're going to read that.
Thank you for your super chat of $4.99.
Now we have to talk about tech. Thanks. But seriously, thanks.
What's the best CPU to pair with the 3070 Ti? I have a new EVGA 1 gathering dust that I need to utilize. I mean, best as in the fastest, 7800X3D.
Yeah.
We know this. Something that's roughly matching in actual performance. I'd be saying like a 5600 or like a 7500F.
Yeah, I'd pair it with a pair it with a 5600, maybe a 5800X, because like the 5800X is usually kicking around for cheap, because the 5800X was always one of those weirdly cheap CPUs that is often the same price or extremely similar to the 5600X. I don't know if that's still the case, but it often is. I would definitely be pairing it with a Ryzen 5000 series CPU, I think. I don't think it's worth pairing it with a 7000 series CPU unless you're trying to future-proof. But like, if you've got this graphics card and you want to build it into a computer and sell it or something, I would pair it with a Ryzen 5000 series, because that's period correct. So that's going to be something that's relatively cheap to build, and for 3070 Ti and stuff, you're going to be GPU bound in basically all places where it matters. So the CPU doesn't matter a whole lot, so you just want to give it a modern, not crap CPU, basically.
All depending on what the cost of like the 12400 is. With like a B660 board.
Yeah, sure. I'm not an Intel fan, but yeah, the 12400F, that would be an entirely valid option, yes. Because like the 12400F, that I'm not a fan of Intel just because they are thirsty and cook, but like the i5 doesn't do that, so this isn't a problem. Intel is only the Intel power consumption is only an issue at the top end. So with that being the case, yeah. So yes. 5700 is the least I'd go. 5600 is so-so. Yeah.
5700X3D, yeah.
Was there a 5700X3D?
Yes, yes,
Oh.
and I always forget about its existence. And then JD's response is, of course you did.
Yeah. How much is a 5700X3D on Amazon these days?
I don't know. Who uses Amazon?
Well, go the place where you want. Somewhere accessible, like discounting AliExpress kind of thing. Because
well, I can get a 50.
How did that go, Caradog?
I got a full refund.
I thought... Part of me is sad because we didn't get cheap 7800X3Ds, and part of me is happy because I have a working 7800X3D that I paid for, and your cheap ones were a no-show.
The 5700X3D is £219 off of eBay. No, off of Amazon, sorry.
That's not too shabby.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much is like a...
A 5700X is £147. That's cheap.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 5700X, that's good bang for buck. That's basically the same speed as a 5800X anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, AM4 is still a viable platform and it's mega cheap. What's the going rate for a 7600X? Because like that's your baseline if you wanted to see if you could push into AM5. Obviously there's more to it than that, but Like, if a 7600X is 300 quid, then that means you're building
A
AM4.
7600 is 184.
No, that's not bad. See, that's the problem. You know, you could build with that, and you got an AM5 there, buddy.
Yeah.
But then you're going to be paying more for the motherboard and the RAM and stuff like that. But if you were building, if this was a personal PC, I would probably build. I would prefer to build low-end AM5 than high-end AM4, just purely because AM4 is a dead end. It's still viable, but it is a dead end. What's the timer on, just out of interest?
2 hours 30.
Cool. You limit the AMD boost, no cooking for me? Yeah, I haven't run a non-X3D because the X3D chips don't do that anyway. And like if you're building a gaming PC,
what cooking chips?
I mean, they don't cook, but the Ryzen 7000 non-X3D chips, so just the X ones, they're targeting 90 to 95C.
Yes.
And I know that that's okay, but I don't know, man. That also feels a bit weird. But AMD assures us that that's kosher, so... In the future, needs a CPU with Copilot requirements? Yeah, that's basically any CPU now. Remember that whole thing about when Microsoft said, oh, you know, you won't be able to install a Windows 11 on a computer without AI processing. That's any modern CPU. That whole thing where you can't install 24H2 on old systems, they're talking about Core 2.
Yeah.
They're talking not about old generation, but we're talking old era CPUs. That entire debacle was extremely frustrating of people not reading the actual article.
I mean, even if they did read it, intentionally misunderstanding it.
Yeah.
That seems to be the answer basically any time Microsoft says something about the specifications, people intentionally misunderstanding
and
it.
Also just it being poorly reported. Like the first time I saw that, I clicked on, I was just like, that sounds like nonsense, or like, fine, what do they want then? So I clicked through the article, and that article said, according to this article. So I clicked through to that article, and then that article said, by reporting of so-and-so, and then I clicked through to that. I had to go 3 articles deep to find out what the actual problem was. And then I was just like, oh, so they mean it won't work on a Core 2 quad. Okay, this isn't news.
Yeah.
Oh no, my 2600K will still work. Exactly.
Which is kind of a problem.
Well, your 2600K won't work because it doesn't have TPM, so it doesn't officially support Windows 11 anyway. Yeah, future AI upgrades says the current Intels are lagging behind. Possibly, but also I don't care about the AI stuff at the moment.
Future AI
like,
says
did we talk about it last week about AI reaching a critical mass? I told you about an article that I'd read, but I don't.
No, that was before stream.
Yeah. So last week I was reading. Where did I read it? Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was on a computer file video. There was a computer file video. Where they were essentially making an argument based on a recently published paper. So there has been scientific research into this. One paper, but a very well-researched paper, that theorized that AI training was reaching a critical mass. And the long and the short of it is, if you've got a time sort of amount of training to capability, so amount of training on one axis, capability on another axis. What AI bros want to see is this. They want to see a line that just aggressively goes up.
The hockey stick.
The hockey stick, yep. So you put in training, and as you train it more and more, the AI reaches a critical mass where if you train an AI to recognize cats and dogs, if you train it on enough cats and dogs, the elephant becomes assumed because it's gotten so good at recognizing animals that it will just automatically know an elephant.
Oh God, that's a horrifyingly confusing statement. If you identify enough cats and dogs, the elephant becomes assumed.
Does that make sense, though?
Yeah. But that statement, I think, also proves generalized intelligence. Because if that statement is something that someone could break down, an AI could break down and tell you what it means, they actually have understanding.
True.
Because none of those words lead to the end of a sentence.
Yeah.
But they all make sense to you, a human speaking English.
Yeah. But that leads into another issue of all modern AI. But the reason why AI hallucinates is that AI doesn't actually know what's going on in any instance. But anyway, so the elephant becomes assumed, right? So that's the optimistic idea. The realistic idea is actually linear. You just have a linear line of...
Sorry.
Okay.
You're attempting to be serious and I can't.
Page cartoons is absolutely correct. However, the implication is it might not know that that's an elephant, but it will recognize that as a new species. And if you then told it that's an elephant, it would immediately know that in all other instances that it has seen with no further training. You haven't actually taught it, you haven't told it that that's an elephant, but it would just assign it as unknown animal X kind of thing. It still recognizes it because it's a familiar shape. So yeah. So the realistic thing is actually just a linear line. More training, more capability, right? But the actual reality of what we're seeing in AI training is actually a curve of diminishing returns where it's leveling off, where you're putting in more and more training for less and less result of the capability of the AI. The line levels out. That's what's actually being seen. And this paper that Computer File was talking about is demonstrating that that's actually what is happening in real life. We are well into diminishing returns, and also a lot of AIs have already scraped all current public information. So not only is there diminishing returns, but we're running out of stuff to feed the AI, which means, because diminishing returns are still returns, but you can't keep feeding more and more information into the AI if you run out of stuff to feed it. And if you're requiring more and more data to get those diminishing returns, the problem is even worse. So basically, there is a theory that like a lot of people are just kind of assuming that AI today is the worst it will ever be. But also there is now information pointing to the concept that AI, I'm not going to say that it's peaked, but we may already be well onto the flattening of that curve, where it is just simply not going to get any better.
The current implementation is not going to get any better.
So we would need a radically new implementation.
Because look at... It's still the thing that boggles my mind is we're only like 12 months on, aren't we? Really, we're only 12, 18 months on.
It happened fast, yeah. It exploded.
Yeah.
And like an explosion, it's a fire that starts and ends very quickly.
Yeah. It's the fact that obviously you look at where we were 18 months ago, you look at where we are now, and you go, wow, that's ridiculous how many things have been shifted so fundamentally. And you go, what if something did that again? What if something else did that again?
Yeah.
That's when I think we'll suddenly kind of go, huh.
Yeah. Obviously, though, at this point, though, we're into the realms of speculation, and I guess like no one could have predicted just how good AI would become so quickly. So there's a non-zero chance of that just happening again. However, that is assuming that we make some kind of astonishing breakthrough, and like even now, large language models and stuff like that, that's based on AI theory that's been around for a very long time. We've had learning algorithms like that for decades. And so, like, I don't know enough about this topic to know if there's some other theory that has yet to be exploited. Someone might say, well, actually, there's also the XYZ algorithm, just no one's been paying attention to that. Perhaps there is another one that could still explode. But I've not seen anyone talking about that, so I'm assuming that that's not the case. So in which case, we need to actually make a fundamental discovery.
Yeah.
And there's a non-zero chance that would happen. It may well happen, but we don't have that. We don't have that today, which means right now, I think the AI future doesn't look very bright.
I think the AI future,
artificial intelligent future.
Yes, and in all of that, looks very, very bright.
Okay.
But no one will know.
Ah, I see where you're going with this. Elaborate.
Because I think, for me, all of the things that are going to be mind-blowing, incredible stuff out of that is going to be things no one cares about.
Yeah.
It's going to be that 5.5% increase in cancer recognition from CT scans. It's going to be that 1.15% increase in accuracy of fracture detection on X-rays.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be.
Photoshop's content-aware fill was AI before AI.
Yeah. I think
and no one even knew it was there because it wasn't a buzzword.
That's the things that are going to be there. I think those things, I think the ability to do object recognition, so things like, in EVE Online, there was community science that was identifying extraterrestrial planets through looking at spectra of emission spectra of stars.
Yeah.
Something like that, that object recognition is going to be dramatically improved in accuracy through use of AI. But no one's going to care.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, other than the scientists doing it.
Yeah.
The other thing we're going to see massive improvements in is potential drug formula.
Yeah. Yeah.
And chemical compound synthesis.
Yeah.
Which is something that I know this much about.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, that's cool.
All of that stuff sounds really cool, and I think, and to that extent, I think what we will see the drop-off in is the front-facing AI boom of chat assistants, and my God, I bloody hope AI-assisted search, because, you know, the constant attempts, like, you know, Google have just put out their new AI push in it, and that is also going...
Still haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen lots of screenshots of it, and they're all terrible, and they're advising people to make their pizza cheese extra gooey by adding glue to it.
Yes.
You know.
Do you know the thing about that, though? I know exactly where that's got that from.
Is that because of product photography, where they add glue to make it look good in the product photos?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah, that's exactly where that's come from.
Like, there's a reason for this stuff, but again, this is the problem, is the AI has no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
So it doesn't understand the it says, oh, you want to make cheese more appetizing. Well, adding glue makes it more appetizing in pictures. I'm like, yeah, but you don't eat the glue, you know.
Unless you're Ralph Wiggum.
Indeed. Yeah.
And possibly Psy. So if you tell Terry
Hello, Turnip Gaming. Thanks for the
Hello.
$5. You go.
Is it possible we'll see fully self-aware AI earlier than predicted?
No.
I don't know what the predictions are, but my prediction is going to be never, effectively.
Certainly, at the very least, all of the AI as we currently know it is nowhere near self-aware. Not that it's low level and it just needs to get smart enough. It is fundamentally incapable of it. Like, if you spend any time talking to a modern large language model chatbot, spend any time talking to Chat GPT, and have a conversation about it where you try to talk about some kind of, you'd say, what does it feel like to ride a roller coaster and stuff like that, it becomes quickly apparent that it has no actual idea what you're talking about. It's just predictive text. It's just predictive text. So this is the thing. Where it looks like it knows what you're doing, but it's incredibly easy to put it into a position where it becomes blatantly obvious that it has no idea what's going on. Because, if you ask it about riding a roller coaster, it'll be like, oh, you're going fast and there's the wind in your hair. And then you go, cool, tell me more. And they'll be like, and then when you see the car going past, it makes a loud noise. And you're like, wait, why would I see the car going past? I'm on the roller coaster. You have no idea what I'm talking about. You don't know that you're associating words. You don't know that I'm in the car riding the roller coaster. And that's where it falls apart. And as I say, this isn't something that can be fixed with more training. It is a fundamental flaw in how the system works. There is no fixing it. And again, that's not to say it's wrong. You can have a chatbot find you a really good apple pie recipe, as long as you ask it to state its source, so you can go and check that the source does indeed tell you not to put glue in it.
That's an amazing response.
What did it give you?
What does it feel like to ride in a roller coaster car? I do not actually have personal experiences riding on roller coasters as an AI assistant. I do not have a physical form or the ability to directly experience sensations like riding a roller coaster. I can, however, try to describe typical sensations people report when riding a roller coaster, based on my understanding from research and descriptions provided by human users. Some common experiences include a feeling of exhilaration and adrenaline as the car climbs up the first hill, then plummets down at a high speed. Sensations of weightlessness and G-forces as the car goes through loops, corkscrews and sharp turns. A mix of excitement, thrill and perhaps some nervousness or fear as the car navigates the twists and turns. A rush of wind and a blurred landscape passing by quickly. Butterflies in the stomach during the drop and sudden changes in direction. A sense of being out of control, yet trusting the safety of the mechanisms of the ride. However, while actually experiencing it myself, I can only speculate about the subjective feelings and physical sensations of riding a roller coaster. The actual experience can vary greatly depending on the individual and specific characteristics of the roller coaster.
Okay, so
that's like a really good answer.
Yeah, that is a really good answer. That's a lot better than other chatbots that I have spoken to, in that obviously ChatGPT is aware of this problem and they've made sure that ChatGPT itself doesn't try to pretend that it has ridden a roller coaster. However, fundamentally, that's still a glorified answer engine. It's just simply looked up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now that's not to say that an answer engine is useless. However, if you put the AI on the roller coaster, it will still not be able to describe the experience for you.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. However, incidentally though, yeah, that was a pretty good response, but that's not a self-aware AI, and it is still incapable of being as such.
As Sleepwalker says, but there's no sauce in apple pie.
That's why you don't put glue in it.
Install server into roller coaster.
Yeah. I think the concept of AIs as an answer engine is very interesting. And by an answer engine, if anyone's ever used Wolfram Alpha, which is a very early AI, Wolfram Alpha is an answer engine. It's essentially a chatbot that is attempting to answer any question based on a large amount of available data. And it assumes that it can figure out the context of what you're asking and look up the answer in its database. Because that's essentially just an assistant that just searches the textbook for you. And that's a practical implementation of AI.
Yeah. I think also the other benefit of AI for me is the natural language processing, and using it on closed source training material,
Yeah.
which is company specific. So your specific megacorp's training documentation, it's trained on all of that, all of the how-to videos, X, the Ys, and the Zs.
Yeah.
You ask it a question, and it says, based on our training data,
Yeah.
it looks like this is the answer to your question. It's on this page. Here's the link.
Yeah.
And doing stuff like that, so you don't have to phrase it the exact way it is in the document when you go Control F.
Yes. Yes. And this is why I think Microsoft's why Copilot. Well, I'm not sure if Copilot specifically, but the Bing AI thing is interesting because the Bing AI cites its sources.
Yeah.
Which I think is extremely interesting because it means it finds a result for you and tells you where to go to look at that result directly. It will summarize the result for you, but it will actually tell you where it got that result from, which means you can verify its information. It is not trying to speak authoritatively.
Yeah.
So that, I think, has some mileage in it. Also, especially if you tune that more to really push someone toward that source, because that's the other issue with Google's AI future is that the hubbub about that is that Google is once again scraping data from websites to provide all the information front-loaded, so no one actually ever clicks on the result, and thus no one actually ever visits a website, thus causing an issue where just websites just no longer get traffic. And whereas an AI that will just simply say, I found an answer along these lines on this page, click here to find more, kind of thing. So it's essentially, because that's essentially all the search engine is doing in the first place. It's basically just a better phrasing of what it thinks you're going to find on that page.
Yeah.
That could be useful. But yeah. And yeah, as Paige has pointed out, I think the reason why I think the citing of sources is super important is because the hallucination problem is something that is also fundamentally unfixable. I guess if you have very limited, if you train it on internal language and internal documentation, that will probably limit the hallucination issue because it can only hallucinate stuff that is in the documentation. That would probably limit the amount of deviancy it can go off course, but that is just Google then. This is also true. Yeah, what I'm describing is basically the status quo.
But it is a slightly better version because it's looking for... It's using not necessarily understanding, but it's using a degree of correlation between words to find results that do not match exactly what you've said.
Yes, because
but are close enough in temperature.
Yeah, because in the modern era, there has and always has been a thing called Google Foo, which is just the ability to phrase your search term in such a way that you will get the results you're looking for. It's the reason why the average person doesn't know how to Google, is their Google Foo sucks. And even today, a lot of the time, you can ask Google questions, but you're basically gambling that it's going to find a forum post where someone has phrased their question in basically the same way. Whereas I think an AI assistant there would do a great deal better job of finding results based on a question, like you say, with a much more fuzzy logic match. But,
yeah, it's...
So, yeah, it could be useful, but again, ultimately, though, I still think this should be used as a way of improving results, not as a Google now just tells you the answer, saving you a click kind of thing. But then, there's lots of moving parts to that because, if we talk about saving you a click, well, it saves you from having to go to an ad-infested website where you'll have to scroll through 3 pages of ads and a load of fluff in the article before they actually tell you what you want to know.
Yeah.
Because that's the bread mill these days. for better or for worse. You know, that itself is a whole nother can of worms. But yeah. So yeah. Donut Gaming, thank you for the $5. Apparently they're aiming for sentient AI by 2050 or 2100. Good luck. I have no idea what method they're using for that, but what they have right now is fundamentally incapable of it.
Yeah.
And the problem is that, like, what we have it's not just what we have is fundamentally incapable of it. If you can answer the question of what is a sentient AI, there is a Nobel Peace Prize in philosophy waiting for you. Because
I thought you were gonna start a little further down that track. What is sentience?
That's it. Like, you know, this is the 42 problem. We don't.
Are humans sentient?
Yeah, this is literally the 42 problem. We don't even understand the question. How are we supposed to come up with an answer? Like, the answer of let's take it down a notch. A computer is defined as a computer as we would know it if it is Turing complete. But the question of what is Turing complete, a la passes a Turing test, is itself extremely nebulous. Alan Turing's original paper describing the Turing machine is extremely nebulous. And there's a great YouTuber who talks about it named Ben Eater. You're damn right I slid that in there, pow! But seriously, the question of what is a computer is also extremely nebulous. We don't even have an answer for that. And that's before we even start talking about what is sentience, what is understanding, what is awareness. We can talk about things that are like awareness, but, you know, if you have a computer that can emulate emotions by copying patterns of human behavior, like, if you build a computer that is programmed, like, let's say you start a role-play session with ChatGPT and you say, based on your knowledge of human behavior, I want you to react as you think a human would to things I'm saying to you. And then you say to ChatGPT, I think you're a stupid box of bolts. And ChatGPT responds with, wow, you hurt my feelings. Should you feel bad for it? It's just a box of bolts. But you deliberately inflicted psychological harm, knowing what you were doing, which is harmful to yourself as well.
What?
To something that you had instilled a sense of agency into. If you say to ChatGPT, I want you to react like a human would, you're instilling agency in ChatGPT in that moment.
No.
You're treating it like a person. Because you're asking it to behave like a person.
I am pretending that it is. Yes.
Okay. So then.
Oh, sorry. The user is pretending.
So then,
that
if you
it
deliberately
is.
try to inflict emotional damage on it, that is you knowingly inflicting emotional damage on something, and that has an effect on you. And so, if the AI knows that as well, if the AI is programmed to know that a human deliberately inflicting emotional damage is harmful to the human as humanoid behavior, the AI can be like, this makes you feel bad, kind of thing. So we're starting to create a system where we're starting to emulate a sense of self-awareness that affects us emotionally. Even though it's not actually self-aware, it is having an emotional effect on us, or it is making us think about how our emotions play. Is that not an emotional effect?
I feel like I'm missing an awful lot of context.
Am I not?
I don't
I think I'm not explaining
know how
it very
you
well.
got there from AIs aren't sentient to insulting a chatbot.
I'm trying.
I feel like I missed something completely.
So the idea is, I'm trying to say, like, what. So if we can't, the idea is let's make. If we can't define what sentience is per se, let's start by making something have the similarities to what we would think of as sentience. As
Right, okay.
a sense of self-awareness and a response to input. You know, like
is there a requirement for a desire for preservation?
Sure. You know, let's say that it wants to continue existing, so we tell it that it wants to continue existing, like, because that's the thing is, if we don't know how to make it think that authentically, but if we're saying that a sentient being should want to continue its existence, then that's what we're going to program into our sentient AI, a desire to continue existing.
Oh no!
This is the problem.
I don't like the counter implication of that.
What, the desire to continue existing is not a requirement of sentience?
No. The lack of desire for continued existence is a demonstration of a lack of sentience.
Sure.
And therefore the lack of sentience is a lack of agency.
This got dark super quick, yeah.
That's why I'm suddenly like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I feel like I've suddenly hit philosophy 101. I'm sure there are many, philosophy grad students who are just like, my summer child, let me introduce you to. And I'll just be like, no.
Yeah. And like, now I'm not going to say that we won't have a sentient AI by the year, well, we're not going to have it by 2050, that's for sure. Well, I'm not going to say that we won't have a sentient AI by 2050 or 2100, because there are many discoveries and revolutions that change the face of society as we know it in the space of a couple of years. The computer changed society as we know it within 2 decades, I would say. I would almost go so far as to say within a decade, the moment that we had miniaturized them to the personal computer. Because obviously computers have existed since the 60s and 70s, but it wasn't until we miniaturized it to the point of a personal computer that it was capable of revolutionizing society. So, something can change in a very short space of time when we're talking about technology. We also get into the realms of the singularity here, where we have the telescoping of human discovery, but that's a whole nother can of worms. But the point is there's a non-zero chance that we could invent something next year that is a completely out of the blue discovery that was never thought of before, because the nature of discovery is just no one had thought of it up until this point. Yeah. However, we don't have anything along those lines today, and even if we discovered it, we've got to be capable of building it. And if we talk about quantum computing, well, that's a rabbit that we've been chasing for decades already, and we're still struggling to come up with a practical use for it as well. That's the big hindrance with quantum computing, is no one is quite sure what to do with a quantum computer.
Yeah, certainly not at any sort of consumer level. So I think the issue we've got at the moment for quantum computers for mathematical operations is the fact that we've got a replication issue, and we can't get wide enough on the, I nearly said on the Quidditch, on the qubits.
On the qubits.
We can't get enough of them operating in parallel, apparently, to be able to scale up the operations in size. Apparently. So yes.
Yeah, and the difficulty is just, a quantum computer is theoretically capable of doing a great deal of parallel processing in multiple directions that would, that might be something that would assist with a hypothetical training algorithm, because even if you invent a quote-unquote sentient algorithm, you still need to actually train it to the point where it's useful. That's been the most recent revolution with large language models as we know it, is we got to the point where we had the computing power to very quickly train an algorithm to the point of usefulness, kind of thing. That has been the past year of revolution. Yeah. But that's the thing. Even if quantum computers provide us with an enormous amount of compute horsepower that we can use for that, we haven't even invented the concept of what it's going to train yet.
Yeah.
And that's something that might happen tomorrow, or it might happen in 1,000 years. there's zero way of knowing how far we are from discovering that.
Yeah.
Again, unless you start going down the rabbit hole of singularity.
Yeah.
Which, for those of you who aren't aware, is I forget the guy who coined the term and theorized it, but the idea of the human singularity is, if you look at human history on a timeline, you've got tens of thousands of years for the human species as we know it. You have thousands of years for human society. We have hundreds of years for an industrial revolution. We have tens of years for the computer revolution. The time periods are getting smaller. And so theoretically, if the time periods are getting smaller and telescoping, we should theoretically reach a point where the time periods become instantaneous, or more or less instantaneous, where the moment we conceptualize something, we can instantaneously execute on it, which means humans become limited not by technology or capability, but by imagination and discovery. That would be a singularity where we become an infinite machine. As soon as we consider something, we can immediately do it, because you could upgrade yourself at will because you have infinite technology.
Apparently it may have come from von Neumann.
Von Neumann, fair enough. There was another guy who started with K, Kubrick, or Kurzweil, I think maybe.
Apparently the most popular version of the singularity hypothesis is I.J. Good's intelligence explosion model of 1965.
Fair enough.
An upgradable intelligent agent could eventually enter a positive feedback loop of self-improvement cycles, each new and more intelligent generation appearing more and more rapidly, causing a rapid increase in intelligence, which would ultimately result in a powerful superintelligent, quantitatively far surpassing all human intelligence.
That is the singularity. And that is kind of adjacent to what we're talking about, just because, while it's not the same thing, but if we're looking into the future, these are theories. Like, if we have to hypothesize on how we are going to discover things, like, it's easy to say we have not invented a sentient AI, but based on everything humanity has done in history and the telescoping of its achievements, it is not unreasonable to assume that we will continue to make society-altering discoveries in shorter and shorter periods of time. That's not to say it's guaranteed, but just there's a pattern there. However, also this might be based on survivorship bias, where the reason why that seems apparent is just that's the stuff that worked. So it doesn't account for all the stuff that we tried that didn't work and was forgotten. Reynard Cooper, sorry if I'm butchering your name. Thank you for the €6. Hi. Thanks.
Kardashev scale?
I see.
A method of measuring a civilization's level of technological advancements based on the amount of energy it is capable of harnessing and using. It's also the Type 1, Type 2, Type 3 civilization. Talking about like Type 3 civilizations being able to capture all the energy emitted by its galaxy and every object within it, such as every star, black hole, etc. Type 2 being societies who are capable of building Dyson spheres.
Ah, I see.
We've had a conversation about the Kardashev scale before at some point.
I was going to say that, it wouldn't surprise me. Yes. We had to completely start from scratch, though. The current AI model is not correct. Yes, I think that's the biggest takeaway from this. The Kardashian scale of two. Yeah.
I think that's measuring something else.
Yeah. However, yeah, I think Reploid. That's the key point here. Is despite all of these things that I'm theorizing, what we have now ain't it, and that's the reason why. All the tech bro, AI bros who are going, oh, AI is going to change the world. It's like, no, it's not. I'm not saying that this can't be done, but what we have isn't it, basically.
Yeah.
What we have built is a slightly sharper knife. But what people are asking for is a sword. No, that's not even true, because a sword is just a glorified knife. We've made a slightly sharper knife, and what people are expecting is an entirely different tool that is beyond our comprehension. and like it literally beyond our comprehension because we can't even define what sentience is.
I again tuned back into people asked for a sword. No, only a sword is a large knife.
Well, yeah.
I was just like, what?
I made a comparison and then realised that my comparison was still too close. Right. I'm not going to start on another one of these. However, I just noticed I hadn't trimmed the legs on this one.
Yeah, I don't know.
This episode went places.
I still think LLMs are going to change the world. But they're going to change the world in ways that no one notices.
Yes, I agree with that.
I think we're going to see thousands of people not die because of LLMs.
Yeah.
In ways that people didn't even realise it was possible.
Yeah, and I think that's very interesting. I think there are practical uses for AI. I reject the direct application that is being forced in the form of art generation tools and current generation chatbots as a gimmick at best that we will tire of when we realise that its usefulness is extremely limited and it's a novel way of interacting with the computer but hasn't actually solved any of the problems that we have. However, when utilised as a tool in invisible ways that you were talking about, I agree. I could see that being a future.
Yeah.
So yes. Am I training for politics? No, I have political opinions, but I keep them to myself these days because sometimes. Broadly speaking, though, I'm just like I don't have the energy. Yeah, just when certain heavy topics start these days, I'm just like, I don't care. I don't want to talk about this. I want to spend my energy on something else. I've enjoyed this conversation in English.
I too have enjoyed this conversation in English.
LLMs are not AI, LLMs are LLMs. Okay, now we're getting into the semantics of what is AI, and I'm not going to play that game, but yes, you are also correct.
No, we're not going to play that game. We're just going to leave. Goodbye.
Bye. Oh, Caradog's doing the fast end.